The Powers Project.
Joe Robby Dodd, how the hell are you, my man?
I'm wonderful, excited for moving a little slow today. That's all.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I feel great.
So I understand that you started back at your old job, which was.
I'm back to go-go dancing. Yeah. So I was in the other night and they needed a manager, and I was like, I've done that before. That's wonderful. So we talked about it, and now I'm back on as a go-go dancer and manager at Savoy. So
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm a little sore though. I didn't realize how. I forgot. Not that I didn't realize. I forgot how much of a workout I got when I was working there before. And
yeah, I'm sure that keeps you in shape.
That's kind of the plan. I'm kind of hoping it will.
Well, you already got back in shape. I mean, you might not be in dance. I mean, your muscles may be sore from not having danced for a while, but you're already in great shape. I mean, that's obvious.
Oh, thank you. I've been trying. Getting old. That's what it was. No, that was the kick that actually got me, that lit the fire under my ass, that got me to lose that weight. Was just I realized I'm not going to be in my 20s for very much longer.
Right.
And I feel like when you, I know it's just a number, but it seems like crossing it over a threshold that I don't want to cross over.
See, even this last threshold I just crossed over this year, I thought it would have, because none of the other thresholds had any impact on me, and I thought this one would. And I would have to say it probably has a little bit, because the number just seems surreal to it doesn't seem possible. I know that I'm that age, but I still don't believe it.
I'm gonna guess the time went by fast. It feels like it goes by fast for me.
It does. It goes by, because when it's funny because I talked to a friend of mine, and she's from Kenya. And so we were talking about something that happened with her husband. We were talking about starting a 501c, a nonprofit organization. She goes, "Oh, yeah, my husband did this a few years ago." Well, when she told me the date, I was like, "You realize that was 17 years ago?" And she goes, "Oh, my God." It's but to us, it seemed like a few years ago. It really seems like 3 years ago. And yet you find out, oh, my God, it was 17 years ago. And so, yeah, the time, it just...
If you blink, it passes you.
It does. That's why you taking advantage of being young and traveling the world the way you do. You're very smart. I was the same way. In fact, I lived in a condo on the beach when I was in my early 20s. And I remember sitting out by the pool, listening to the ocean, looking up at the stars in the sky, and I was the youngest person in this condo. Everybody else was retired. And I thought to myself, I am 22 years old, and I am where these people work their entire lives to be now. And I go, the difference is I can actually enjoy it, where they didn't enjoy it. They never took walks on the beach. They very seldom used the pool. And and there was so much chlorine in the pool, to be honest, I didn't even use it because I thought it was going to, eat my skin away. I mean, you could smell the chlorine. I lived on the second story, and you could smell it up there. That's how much, because they were so afraid of getting some sort of germ or some bacteria in the pool.
That is funny.
So, but I remember that I thought this is the way I wanted to do it. I wanted to travel the world, which I did, and do it when I was young. And not that I can't enjoy it now, because I certainly can, but you never know what the future holds. And so, take advantage of it while you can, and you do that.
That's just it. It's it's I don't mind taking walks. It's one of the things that I love the most. I love just going for a walk somewhere, because just breathing fresh air, just a little change of scenery, and just enjoying seeing things on the way out. Just a walk like that is enjoyable to me. But travel, as far as traveling the world goes, it's that's something that is a life goal for me. But I try to travel as much as I can now for that reason. It's I don't know what like you said, I don't know what the future holds. I don't want to be like the guy who was in the closet his whole life.
Right.
And it's and as long as I can go for a walk, I'm going to do it. But, who knows? There could be one day where I can't go for a walk anymore.
And see, and I admire you for that, because honestly, it's no secret that I only date young guys. And part of the reason why I only date young guys is because I need someone who can keep up with me. And yet I've not found I found one, but that turned out to be a different story.
I dig it.
But the rest of them, like you said, that you enjoy going for a walk. In fact, you know who he is. The one boyfriend I had here last time, I would say, hey, let's go around Lake Eola. Let's go for a walk. I don't want to go for a walk. I go, why? We live 5 minutes away.
And
Let's
it's so
just
pretty.
Go. Right, it is. And at
Beautiful.
nighttime, it's beautiful. But he was so, he would just get lazy and didn't want to go. I go, you're only 23.
Was he not into Pokemon Go? That's what gets me to Lake Eola.
Yeah, this was before Pokemon Go.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. That gets me to Lake Eola. I love just going catching Pokemon, and then it's just enjoying. It's so beautiful down there. It really is.
Yeah. And he just he would go once in a while, but there would be times I go, you're not doing anything. It'd be one thing if you're busy doing something, but it's like, wouldn't you just enjoy just taking a walk? And and I found with a lot of these younger guys, they couldn't even keep up, and I'm like, and I'm not even pushing them really. So
that's what I'm most afraid of. I just don't want to be that stagnant where it's like,
right.
And they don't realize it now, but they'll realize it in 40 or 50 years. I think they'll realize, maybe I should have taken that walk, because it's like now I really am tired,
right?
and I really can't do it.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. Absolutely correct on that.
It's sad, but
Well, the reason why, so people know, the reason why I asked Robby on the show today is because he's a millennial, and as we know, millennials have some particular challenges that previous generations have not had. We can sit there and claim that we've had it rough, but we're full of shit. The baby boomers have probably had it easier than any fucking generation out there, and we like to cry that we're always taking care of everything, and that's crap. We were raised by the generation that was considered the greatest generation ever. Or the greatest generation raised my parents, and then my parents, of course, raised me. But from my parents' generation on, we've been nothing but entitled little brats, and we've been handed everything to us. And I know there's going to be people out there go, I didn't have anything handed to me. You may not have had it handed to you. I didn't have it handed to me either, not literally, but we had a much easier time of things than the generations of today have it. Whether it's going to school, whether it's getting a job, whether it's buying a house, or whatever it is, we had a much easier time of doing it than the millennials and the XYZ generations are having, because of the fuck ups that we did, because of what the mess that we left you, and now we're blaming you for. So,
but we got trophies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's not to say that there aren't things that that your generations haven't done incorrectly, because every generation we all screw up. But it's funny how we like to like the baby boomers like to sit there and go, oh well, look what the millennials do. They're lazy, they're entitled. And I go, what the fuck are we? I mean, honestly, we are the most entitled generation, I swear to you, that I have ever seen. And yet we'll totally, it's sort of like the left and the right. You'll have the people on the left who can point out all the flaws on the right, and
but they can't flaws out in their own party.
And the same with the right. The right can point out the flaws in the left, but can't point out the flaws in their own. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do as these different generations. So we can point out the flaws of the millennials and the Z generation, but we can't point out our own. And millennials can sit there and go, baby boomers do this, but I don't know that you guys don't see your own flaws, though. You tend to be more self-aware than we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do have some major flaws. My generation is not. I mean, of course, we're far from perfect too. We don't, like, when it comes to voting, we don't show up to vote as much as the older generations do, and I think that's one place where we could effectively make the most change, like the change that we want to see in the world, the change that we keep bitching and moaning and complaining about. It's we as a generation, we all have an opinion, but then we don't show that opinion at the polls rather than posting it on Facebook or, some kind of social media. So that's the one. I mean, granted, we do have a lot of challenges that we're facing, and I'm not discrediting any of that. It's all very valid, but I mean, we can't really complain about it if we're not showing up to vote and try to make some change about it.
Well, I think you're right, and I think part of that issue is that people think if they bitch, that's doing something. And it doesn't. Bitching doesn't do anything, except it might make you feel a little better getting it off your chest, but it doesn't change anything in the long run. So if your solution is to bitch, don't expect any change, because it's not going to happen. So we're going to go in a minute here. We're going to go over the list of things that millennials are considered their biggest problems for their generation.
I bet I have a couple guesses. I'd put money on what I.
Yeah. But we're gonna do this a little differently. So what I'm gonna tell you is that on this show, what we do is we identify the problems, and then we focus the attention on the solutions. And you just hit on one of the solutions, which is one of the main solutions, which is get off your fucking ass and go out and vote.
Amen.
So,
okay.
Because if you don't, then my generation is going to vote for you.
Exactly.
And they're going to determine your future.
They
not
did the
you.
last election,
right.
the last general election. They voted for us. We deserve we deserved what we got.
Well,
so.
We do deserve what we got, but that's in part because of what the DNC did to Bernie Sanders. I realize a lot of people did not vote or voted differently because the DNC is corrupt and screwed Bernie Sanders out of, and
they pushed Hillary.
Right, and again, for anybody out there who's whining like, "Oh, that's a conspiracy," no, it's not. It's proven. There were emails that were found that both Hillary's camp and DNC. Right, it was.
It was all over the news.
So if you deny that, you're no different than the Trump supporters that you scream at to deny everything. You're just as bad as they are.
Exactly.
So,
we have to point out the flaws in our own side, and let's face it, Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to step down for a reason. There was some shady stuff happening. Okay,
right.
That is what it is. She had to step down because they were pushing Hillary, and when
not only that, but Hillary was just as disingenuous as you could be, and I'm being kind by calling her disingenuous.
That's a nice word.
When she kept she knew from the day after Barack Obama was sworn in for his second term, she started her campaign immediately. Mm-hmm. She started buying up those super delegates immediately. Mm-hmm. And so when 2 years out, when they asked her, are you going to run for president? Well, I don't know. Yes, you do. You know, bitch, you're lying out your ass. You know damn well you already have everything lined up. There's no... So why no one ever called her out on that is beyond me, because when you saw the planning that was done and how early it was done for her to become, to run as the Democratic nominee, you see that she knew from 4 years out that she was going to run. And yet 2 years when they asked her, she said, I'm not sure. I don't know. It's like you're a lying.
I know. Yeah, exactly. And then when all that stuff happened with the DNC, she didn't even acknowledge it.
Right, of course she did.
That was the part that, I think that was, at least acknowledge it. At least say, hey, this is something that happened that, maybe we should reconsider that,
I would sit there and go, look, I wanted to win, and so I wanted to make sure I didn't get screwed again, because she felt she got screwed during Barack Obama, because she thought she should have gotten nominated then. And Barack Obama came out of nowhere and took the nomination away from her. So she made sure that wasn't going to happen again. And all of a sudden, here along comes Bernie Sanders threatening to do that again. But she took care of that to make sure that wasn't going to happen by making sure Wasserman was in place for her. She paid for all those people.
Exactly.
Her campaign did.
That's exactly one thing that we don't want in politics anymore. We don't it's the dirty money, the buying and selling positions in power.
So if you don't want that, then if there are, look, millennials make up a quarter of the population. You have the greatest
we could decide
block
elections.
Of voters.
We could decide elections.
You can change elections. So if you don't want that, get off your ass and vote. You bitching on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that, great. Sounds great.
Exactly.
But you're not changing anyone's mind.
Bitch all you want if you vote.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. If you get out there and vote, or do something politically active besides bitch, then bitch. Bitch also, but it's not just bitch for the sake of bitching.
Right, exactly. Because then again, that's your solution, and that's no kind of solution.
The most that it's gonna do is maybe might the most bitching does is maybe might reach an undecided person. It might reach out to an undecided person, but but most people have already made up their minds.
Well,
most
and even
people are
undecided, the way they bitch on these social media platforms is like children. And so if I'm an undecided and I watch these two idiots arguing back and forth, calling each other names, I go, yeah, both of them sound retarded. I'm not going with either one of them. You know? So you're not changing anyone's mind.
You're right. You're really not. I mean, you're not helping your cause. You're not helping anyone by doing that. That's 100% right.
So, you know, and here's the other argument I always hear is that, you know, my vote doesn't mean anything, and I'm going to tell you this. If your vote didn't mean anything, Republicans wouldn't fight so goddamn hard to make sure you didn't get the vote.
If you think your vote doesn't mean anything, just look up the 2000 election because you apparently you missed that one.
Right, yeah. Well, there's probably some weren't born then. So
yeah, well, that's true, especially if they're 18 now. Yeah, 18 now, they would have been born in 2002.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. And see, remember when we were talking about earlier before we started recording about how, you know, 17 years ago, you can say, oh, yeah, a few years ago, and realize a few years ago was 17 years ago, you know, so.
Yeah. You know. I mean, it feels like that, what feels like what was yesterday. I was in elementary
and
school.
But that's, you know, it's funny because we had talked about this last time, and it was that I said, you know, there are going to be viewers and listeners on here who are going to say, you're old. And I go, that's fucking hilarious to me because I would never consider you old, but I do know that there are guys or there are young people out there who will sit there and go, he's old because you're what, 20? Do you want to say?
I'll say it.
Okay.
So I'm pushing. I'm going to be 30 in like 2 months.
What?
So, yeah, I'm going to be 30.
What?
In January 1st, I'm going to be 30. No, but this is it. This is a good reaction, and I'm going to tell you why. Because this is the reaction that I get when, you know, I say I'm a millennial, but then I say I'm 30. It's like. I am a millennial. I am
right.
I am a middle. Like I'm right in the middle of the millennial. You know, in the middle of the generation. Like I was born in 1991. Millennials were born. I think I like the way Ryan Murphy put it in American Horror Story the best. Like the way they wrote it was before, between the birth of AIDS and 9/11, give or take. So so somewhere between 1982-ish and 2001,
right.
Give or take some years if you need, you know, because it's not set in stone. But that's just it. That's what a lot of people don't realize is that my generation is working class right now. Like we're the ones that are trying to hold down jobs and support families at this stage in our lives. We're not the ones eating Tide Pods. That's Gen Z, but
right.
Not to say we didn't do stupid stuff. We did some stupid stuff, but
well, we did plenty of stupid stuff. So I remember people my generation were huffing paint in brown paper bags, and they thought, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they wanted to buy the gold paint because supposedly the gold paint gave you a better high than other paint colors did. I was
that's weird. But
I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what they swore by. But you would see these people walking around with paint around their face.
Wow.
It's what have you been up to? Oh, nothing.
Your face is normally blue.
Exactly.
Gold. Whatever.
30. God, you know, people, I thought I looked good for my age, but I don't know why I thought you were more like 26 and I don't even think you look 26. I've known you long enough.
You've known me a long time.
To go, well, he's got to be at least 26 now, but you don't look it. And 30,
yeah, I'll be 30 in January, and no, that's seriously that was an eye opener for me too. When I turned 29, that's when I started to really say, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the last year in my 20s. What is going to happen now? Because I mean, you think of 30, and it's that was always so foreign to me, and that was always the benchmark for I feel being an adult, and it's I'm so railing against that. I don't want to. I don't want to grow up too fast, and I feel time is just flying, and that's what I'm really trying to rail against. I want to stay young as long as I can.
Well, I would say this: don't make the mistake that many people in my generation made, which was they never grew up; they just grew old. So I'd say grow up, but don't grow old.
I like that.
And there's a difference, a huge difference. I mean, growing up, you can still have fun, you can still be kid-like. You just know when to be an adult and when to act properly and be responsible.
I like that.
And that's, I can't say I've always done that, but I do my best.
It's hard to make a distinction. No, sometimes you have to choose between what is right and what is funny. Okay,
right. It's true. And I usually go with what's funny. So
Exactly. It's like, was it right to scare my boss like that? No. Was it funny?
yes.
It was hilarious.
So I'm in the unemployment line, but hey, Yeah, so I would have never guessed you were closing at 30, but I will tell you this. God, you remember the movie Children of the Corn from the Stephen King book?
Yes.
And at 30, they had to kill you.
Creepy movie.
Exactly. It's like I'd have been dead years ago. But anyway, so your generation is facing these problems that my generation didn't face, at least not on the level that you did. And so I found this poll that was done by people of your generation that said that they believe these were the 15 biggest problems facing your generation today. So what I want to do is go over these briefly, talk about them, and then we'll discuss the solutions to it. Which, of course, one of them is what?
Voting.
Right, there you go. Okay.
By
Voting
a big
people,
margin. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, and I was going to do a podcast just by myself, and it was going to be called, Home of the Brave. And I was going to say, are we really brave? Because, our actions have shown that we can talk it, but we don't walk it. And I said, if we were truly brave, then all of us would take our vote and vote anyway, except for the major two parties. But I didn't do that podcast because right now I do believe that this country is at a point where we cannot risk 4 more years
not this
of
time.
this idiot. And it amazes me, and I don't care. I've had so many Trump supporters, gay Trump supporters, who I've tried to debate, and the closest one I got was Randy Ross, who came on my show, but he started getting heated when I called him out on his bullshit. And that's what it is. It's complete bullshit, and they know it is. But they keep pulling that party line just like the Democrats do, to be honest. But since I can call out both, he can't call me a hypocrite because I will call out both. I called out as much as I wanted Bernie Sanders to be the nominee in 2016 and this year. I said, even Bernie is not perfect. There's flaws within Bernie, but he has less than the rest of them.
Exactly.
That's,
Exactly. I think he's like a lot better than most politicians in Congress. Like there's so much dirty money that goes into politics nowadays, and I don't think with him it's like first of all, he doesn't take money from large corporations or like billionaires. He's not like, that's not the main source of his campaign funding, so he's not bought and paid for. And he connects with working class people. I think like he understands the issues that are facing working class people nowadays and people in my generation more than anyone else in Congress does.
He understands it better than some working class people who keep voting against their own best interests. I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
No, that's so true.
Only in the country do where you're being exploited. Do you sit there and
defend the exploitation?
Right, exactly. I go,
you're defending
what
the
is
people who
wrong
are
with
exploiting you.
Exactly.
It's like you're fighting against like a 70% tax rate for people who make over $10 million, but you yourself are not anywhere close to making over $10 million. It's like, someone that's making over $10 million, I'm sorry, you can afford paying 70% taxes on the money you make over $10 million.
Right.
That's not... I don't think that's very radical.
It's not. Well,
it was there once.
Yeah, it's funny because I saw a meme. It said something about, it's the radical left. How can you be called the radical left when you have the other side, who's this, these religious zealots who are gun-toting and and I forget all the things that they showed that if anyone's radical, it's the right. And it's not to say that we don't have our extremists as well, because we sure do. But they don't speak for the majority of us, just like the radical right doesn't speak for the majority of the people on the right. And we need to make sure that we make that clear, that the right and the left have more in common than we know, because we have these these mouthpieces out there who are trying to divide us by showing the extremes of both sides so that we won't come together. And that's important to understand.
Yeah, but that's why they show the extremes, because they are the extremes. That's the shock value. That's
right.
clickbait.
Well, and that's what it is. And they realize that news can be profitable if you sensationalize it. And that's exactly what they've done. And Matt Taibbi wrote a book called Hate Inc., which he shows how media has gotten us to fight against one another, because once the Cold War ended, there was no enemy or foe to go after. So they had to create one, and they created this divide between us by the way they would report things, so that we would take one side or the other, so that we could start pointing fingers at one another. So now, the people on the left are like, oh, the right, they're evil, and the people on the right go, oh, the left is evil, and it's all bullshit, but they buy into it. Too many people are buying into it.
Yeah, there's a lot that, if we focused, I think for just like a little bit every now and then, I think that's what I'm going to try to do. I'll try to share on Facebook an article of something that'll bring us all together, something that's because we really do. We have more in common than we don't, but we just don't talk about it. We just don't talk about the things that we have in common. And if we did, I think, it would unite us a little bit better.
And social media has hurt us with our communication, because we don't communicate the same way on social media as we do in person. And, it's too easy to sit there and be aggressive and start attacking people personally, where if you're standing in front of them or at a table and you're having a discussion, you're not going to be so crass. But there are no rules or no manners or no etiquette over social media. So the first thing I do, if you say something I don't agree with, I go, "You're an idiot." It's like, oh, well, that's a good comeback.
So could you tell me why I'm an idiot?
Right, exactly. And of course they can't.
They can't tell me why I'm an idiot. Yeah,
because
they just wanted to tell me I'm an idiot.
Because
that's
they
all.
can't attack what your statement, so they have to attack you. And because it goes against their belief system. So that's one of the things that you guys have to deal with. We'll get into that. Your generation has been labeled as lazy, self-entitled by boomers, which is the pot calling the kettle black.
It's funny. I never got a trophy for any of these things.
Yes, I'm surprised. You're getting a job. It's where it used to be for boomers. We just needed a high school diploma, and having a college degree was a plus was a feather in your cap. You guys are expected to have a college degree. It's your high school diploma.
Yeah.
If you don't have a college degree, it's not likely you're even going to get a job at Target.
Yeah, but then once you get the college degree, exactly. It's like the job that what you were training for in college. It's it's just not there.
Right. and this nonsense that everybody's getting a liberal arts degree with studies in lesbianism or something bullshit like that. It's bullshit. It's one of these tales that are told so that people can sit there and make excuses about why they don't think college should be paid for. Just like they want to sit there and talk about how people take advantage of the welfare system, that there's some woman out there with 10 kids, because every time she gets a kid, she gets more money. I go, that's less than 1% of 1%.
So few, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't say a word about the banks that we bailed out for trillions of dollars.
Thank you.
And you're okay with that.
Yes, exactly. It's okay to bail out the banks, but when it comes to actually bailing out people, socialism's great for the rich.
Right. But see, that's our mindset.
Yeah.
You don't you talk to these idiots and they're okay with the banks screwing us. It's in fact, there's a gentleman I was talking to yesterday who's a dear friend of mine. I love him to death, and he's okay with the fact that we bailed the banks out, because he believes that that the system would have failed, that that we would have went into a depression. I go, we wouldn't have. I go, it was a bill of goods that they sold us that was a crock. I said, they told you that if our financial institutions failed, that the whole world would go into a depression. I said, how about this? How about if we took those trillions of dollars and gave them to the mortgage owners, the people who had the mortgages on the houses, let them pay their mortgage off. Guess what? The bank's still going to get their money.
Exactly.
But what happened is the bank got their money and they got the houses. They double dipped.
Yep.
So
they got everything.
Right. So I said, so we got screwed. The homeowners who ended up losing their homes got screwed. The bank got bailed out and the people got screwed.
Yeah.
Just like this last time around. And I go, and he didn't have an answer for that, but he bought into it. And he's a smart guy, but he bought into that bullshit.
Yeah. And
you see that, you see that across the board where people buy into this nonsense, just like, oh, where's the money going to come for, healthcare for everyone?
It's like, well, we had it for the banks.
Right. Exactly. We can ship money when we need to for the military. We can ship money for the banks or for corporations, but we can't do it for us.
We have the highest military budget of any country in the world, like
of
more
the top 10 countries
of the
in
next
the world.
Yeah, more than the next 10 countries combined. If we cut our budget in half, we'd still have the highest in the world.
We would,
except we'd have only half that money spent in the military, and we'd still have this huge chunk that we didn't spend on the military that we can spend on things like education, healthcare.
They'll sit there and they'll bullshit the American public and say, "Oh, our military is weakened," and it's like, no, they're not weak.
No, they're not.
They're not. It's like the soldiers aren't getting the money because you're too busy giving contracts, which is where all this money is going to build shit we don't need.
Exactly. If the soldiers aren't getting the money, you need to ask yourself why,
right,
and address
why
that
is it
problem.
not being allocated to the soldiers?
I absolutely agree. That's a problem. But you need, that's where you need to take it up with. Like, why is this money not getting to the soldiers? Why are we spending so much money on things that we don't need? And my favorite one was that airplane, that $1 trillion airplane they were trying to make, and then they finished it and it didn't work.
Yeah,
that was one of my favorites.
No one has to answer to that. Now, if this is truly a capitalistic society, then I'd sit there and go, you owe us money. We want our money back. This is defective. Where's our money?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But it's not capitalism. It's socialism for the rich.
Right. Exactly.
Socialism if you have billions and millions of dollars. So.
Another problem that you guys are dealing with is that the rate of inflation has outgrown wages.
Mm-hmm.
If minimum wage had kept up with inflation, minimum wage would be $21 an hour right now.
Absolutely.
And people are bitching about $15 an hour, and so that's it's impossible for you guys to have your own place. Like I said, I lived on the beach. Now, granted, I had a roommate, but I lived on the freaking beach. And if I really tried, I probably could have pulled it out on my own and lived there by myself, but I didn't want to because, I was young and we were lifeguards and we wanted to have parties. So I was like, I don't want to throw a party by myself. So I had a roommate. We would throw parties, But we, even with the wages that we got paid as a lifeguard, which wasn't much, let me tell you, we were still able to rent a place on the beach and throw parties. So you guys
can't do that anymore.
You can't. You're lucky. Yeah, you can't rent a place by yourself.
Not at the minimum wage that exists right now. It's like the minimum wage. It will, and that's what a lot of people don't understand or don't want to know or don't want to understand is that the minimum wage was established to be a living wage to meet your minimum basic needs. But it's just it doesn't do that anymore. There's nowhere anywhere in the country where you can be making minimum wage and afford an apartment on your own, and an increase to the minimum wage is just being so fought against it for whatever. I mean, they think it's going to really raise prices by a major difference, but you look at other countries around the world where Australia, where their minimum wage is a living wage there, and things don't cost a heck of a lot more. It's you pay a quarter or two more for a Big Mac, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I don't mind paying that if it means the person serving it to me is
You don't mind paying it. You know who minds paying it? You know who minds paying that extra money?
Can I take a guess? Is it the baby boomers?
There you go.
Wow.
Because they're sitting there going, I don't give a damn what they're making. I don't want to pay a dime more than I have to because all they do is think about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're like, I'm on a limited income. I don't want to have to pay.
Yeah,
and it's like,
and that person serving the Big Mac should get a better job if they want it. If they want more money.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. As if there's a lot of jobs out there, and that's the thing. And here's the other problem that you run into. because it's expected of you to have a college degree. Then when you do go to a job and you can't get a job in your respective, field because there aren't any, and I make this point as well. Back in the day, they would tell you, oh, you should study, to get an IT certificate or something, because that, those jobs are going to be plentiful because they're going to really need them. So everybody does that. Then next thing you know, there's too many people who are in IT, and now these people who have degrees in IT can't get a job. So they're working at Target or working at McDonald's or working wherever they, Starbucks, wherever they can, and yet, in many cases, they're not even given a job there because they're deemed overqualified because they have a degree, and they're
exactly.
And so employers are automatically going to think, oh, I'm going to have to pay this person more. Well, I'm not paying them more when I can pay them $7.50 an hour or $7.25, whatever minimum wage is. I'm not going to pay someone more just because they have a degree, and they're going to make mocha lattes for me or something. So.
See, but that's one of the arguments that is like, they should get a better job, is like that argument is just so condescending. That's the one that I hear, that it's like, okay, so you're acknowledging that this job still needs to be done. So, but you're basically saying that the person that's doing this job doesn't deserve to earn a living wage, and doesn't deserve to be able to pay their bills, and doesn't deserve to, just have a life where they're not struggling.
Right.
So you're still wanting to go get your mocha latte. I don't know what Starbucks serves. That's a bad millennial thing. I should know this. But you still want that, but you want to degrade the person that's making the latte. Like, that's just it's just wrong. Raising the minimum wage, I don't think it would hurt at all. It wouldn't hurt.
Well, I will tell you this. I have a podcast that's coming up with a gentleman named Luis, and he's from Guatemala. And him and I had a discussion, and it's going to be under a segment called Facebook Friends ? Because we want to see if we'll remain Facebook friends after the discussion. We had such an amazing discussion, and believe it or not, Luis was against minimum wage. He lives in Guatemala, and he's which is a third world country, and he was against the minimum wage, and I was for it. And we had an amazing discussion, and we came up with a compromise that we thought would be at least a solution to start off with.
What was it? I'm interested.
You have to watch.
Oh, I have to watch. You're going to be one of those.
You have to watch it.
Okay.
Or you can watch or listen. You watch it on the YouTube channel or listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
I listen on Apple.
Apple? There you go.
I do
it's
listen
on
through iTunes.
It's on all the major platforms. So, yes. And then let me know if you... In fact, folks, comment. Leave comments in the... if you watch it on YouTube, leave comments and let me know what you think. And since I'm not Joe Rogan, I can actually answer you because I'm not going to have a million comments on there. So, I'll be happy to answer you. Just, be polite. Don't be a jerk about it, because,
exactly.
Then I'll have to call you out. So, which I don't have any problem
You don't
doing.
Want that.
Yeah, you do.
Because you don't want that.
So let's see here. So, you're often considered overqualified. Housing costs is just outrageous, and it keeps going up. You have lower wages because of inflation. Also, one of the things is unemployment, especially now, and caring for aging parents. A lot of millennials are having to deal with their aging parents and taking care of them because their aging parents, who are baby boomers, didn't plan properly for their retirement. So their kids are forced to take care of them. And, that's a, I don't know what to say about that, because I'm not going to say, hey, your parents raised you or whatever, and you should tell them, well, tough luck. See ya. So.
It's kind of hard to do, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People don't realize that we are, like, in the generation our parents are aging. But you know what? Like, I always get told, like, whenever I say something that somebody disagrees with on Facebook, they think that I'm living in my mom's basement and never seen the world, or never been outside,
right, yeah.
Like never ventured outside. They think that I'm just like on a computer somewhere. First of all, we don't have basements in Florida.
Right. We do, but they're very, very rare.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think that's like a North Florida thing, probably, if anything, right? Do we have them here?
Yes, we do. In Daytona, because Bill France, Bill France Sr.,
NASCAR.
who owns NASCAR. Well, when he passed away, my friend Brian France now owns NASCAR. He lived on the river and his parents lived next door to another friend of mine, and both of them had huge basements, huge basements.
Really?
Yes, and they were nice basements too. And they lived right on the river, but again, they were far and few in between. You don't find many basements in Florida because
no, you don't.
We're at sea level or below sea level.
Exactly,
so,
you dig you to get water. Like
right, exactly. They didn't have that problem, but they
is the basement flooded? Always.
Yeah. Well, they sat their land sat up on high on this property, and the funny thing is that my friend Carl, who lived next door to Brian, his father was a doctor. And they both, obviously did very well. Of course, Brian's father owns NASCAR, so he's probably a billionaire for all I know. But nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. Seriously, Carl and Brian are two of the best people you'd ever want to meet. And Carl's father and mother adopted children. They had three of their own, and then adopted a slew of other kids.
Oh, wow.
And they were just really super, super nice people. Well, when all the kids grew up, Carl's dad said, I'm going to need to sell the house, because his house was actually a boarding school at one point. It was like four stories, I believe, plus the basement. Then it had a separate building that was for the teachers. It had a stage. It had shower. It had everything for the personnel that were taking care of the students. He ended up redoing this whole house, or his wife did. And then when he went to sell it, Brian's father bought it and bulldozed it, because all he wanted was more property between him and his neighbor. So I was like, man, how do you take a beautiful house like that and just bulldoze it?
That house sounded so huge. Could you imagine? Like, I mean, I would have to have like at least was the bedroom at least close to the kitchen? Because like, I mean, if I wake up in the night for like a midnight snack, I just want like a short walk.
There were no bedrooms on the first floor. It was the living room. There was a piano room. There was a dining room, the kitchen, and then there was a den off to the side. And then the next floor up would be your first set of bedrooms.
Okay, so I'd have to keep snacks in my bedroom if that was
yes. So, but it was a great house. I mean, we had so much fun there. But to have that kind of money where you could just buy it and then just bulldoze the house was amazing. I don't even remember why I was talking. Oh, because of basements. That's why. So.
That's what it was.
So yes, you're right.
We got a little sidetracked, but that's okay.
So you're right. We don't hardly have basements in Florida, so you wouldn't be living in your basement even if you were living at home. But that's not the case, and that's why I had you on the show, which we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So let's go over this poll, and we won't take a great deal of time because there are 15 of them.
Yeah, we'll touch on each one.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of the problems that are facing your generation, or that millennials think are facing their generation today. So number one on the list was racism. So speak to that.
Okay, so racism, we are seeing a surge of it right now, especially. I mean, it's no secret. It's been in the news like a bunch of times. How many times has an unarmed person of color been unjustly killed by police? How many times has that happened? And what are we seeing now with Trump? He's giving racists a voice. He's refusing to denounce white supremacy. He refuses to condemn. He's called Nazis and white supremacists very fine people in the past. So it's like, I mean, he's really giving these people a platform. Voting him out I think that'll maybe kind of force some of these people back into hiding because they won't have that platform anymore. But I mean, Trump is like, he didn't, I think, increase racism. He just brought it to the surface. I feel like the world before that, we were a little bit better off. Like it wasn't, racial tensions weren't so high. But now we're living in a world where racial tensions are very high, and you have groups like Black Lives Matter. That, I mean, and Black Lives Matter, but it's like. It's almost, and I'm very supportive. Like, I was supportive of Black Lives Matter for a long time. It wasn't until like it's gotten harder and harder.
It's because they were hijacked.
Yeah,
that's why it's become a moneymaker now. It's not about what the movement started off being, and it's unfortunate because then because what that does is it gives voice to those who were fighting against Black Lives Matter and saying that they were racist. And now it looks like they were right, and they weren't. That's not what Black Lives Matter was about. But what's happened is that it's been, like I said, it's been hijacked, and it's not the movement that it first started off being.
No. And the message has gotten lost. I feel like
it has.
The message of Black Lives Matter, I feel like has really gotten lost. It's like, yes, Black Lives Matter, and like the message is like we need to show that Black Lives Matter. We've already had 300 years of Black Lives don't matter. So it's like we need to show that Black lives do matter. Like, start prosecuting these cops if they kill an unarmed citizen. Like, there's no reason for that. Like, there's no reason for, I mean, and no reason for killing someone who's not a threat to you. When it's like, I see, like, other people, like, they're taking down a white person who's heavily armed, and the guy goes to jail, and he still has his life. Like,
right, absolutely.
That's just, we need to start prosecuting the cops. That would be at least one step in the right direction, I think. Just show that Black Lives Matter. Because right now we're not showing that.
And I think you make a very good point, because racism is rampant in this country. But here's the thing. It always has been. Mm-hmm. It's just been hidden. And you're right. Trump has lent a voice to these people to feel brave and emboldened to come forward and show that racism. When you have an agency or an entity like the police forces across this country who are racist as well, and basically say it's okay to kill black people, what kind of message do you think that sends to people? Mm-hmm. When you see, a black guy jogging through a neighborhood and these two white guys think they have the right to stop him, not call the police, but they have the right to stop him. When you have someone like that fucking dirtbag who killed Trayvon Martin.
Oh, yeah, Zimmerman.
Yeah. That little douchebag who got, what happened was Trayvon Martin got the better of him. When he attacked Trayvon Martin got the better of him, so he shot him, and then claimed self-defense was bullshit. Yeah, and it is, and it's complete bullshit.
And he got away with it.
And so when these things happen, when they see the police doing this, they think it's okay for them to do it. So the police, across this country set the wrong example. And when they have this immunity that they have, there's nothing there to stop them from. Yeah,
the immunity shouldn't exist. It's like, how many of these cops not only don't get prosecuted, but they get their jobs back.
Right,
like they're back on the force, and for what? They just murdered someone. And that should be. At the very least, termination should be being prosecution. But I mean, nothing is happening. Absolutely nothing. And that's the part that I think that's the solution, is at least get something to say that, yeah, you know what, we agree, Black lives do matter, and this shouldn't have happened, and these people need to be prosecuted.
Yeah, and I will say this again: if you're a cop and you're that scared, you have no business being a cop. It's that simple.
Truth.
If you have to pull a gun on a woman who's unarmed and shoot her, you are a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. If you can't handle an unarmed woman...
Tell us how you really feel, though.
Yeah, well...
It's true. No, okay. I agree with you.
So this is what I want to say about racism. Yes, it is very prevalent. But I'm going to say this. It is better, and I know this is hard to believe, but it is better than it has been. The only reason it seems worse is because of social media. Because all these cop killings that you see on YouTube and stuff of people of color... they've been going on forever and ever. You just never saw them. And it was, and the thing is that before camera phones, cops made shit up. We saw that. We saw it in the Rodney King beating, where they made shit up because they didn't know they were being video recorded. Mm-hmm. And this was, right. And so this shit's been going on for decades, and it was going on at a greater extent than it is now. It's just now it's coming to the forefront more often because everybody has a phone that that has a camera on it.
You're exactly right.
So while racism is a problem, and I don't want to diminish that problem whatsoever, it has gotten better. It really has, and it will continue to get better as soon as we get this turd out of fucking office, and
not too much longer. We got 3 days, right?
Yeah, and let's hope seriously, and put these people that came out from underneath their rocks and let them crawl right back underneath.
Exactly.
So, all right, okay, go ahead.
No, the racism. Like I said, it's just the racism's going to be there. It's just put it back where it was. Put it back under the rocks, because eventually it'll die off, I think. But I don't know. It's one of those things. It's it's always there. It's always there, but it needs to be pushed back to, like, it doesn't need a voice anymore.
Yeah. And, I just feel like this. If you're a racist, regardless of what race you are, and because I will say this, I don't buy into the new definition where they tried to redefine what racism is. Racism is the hatred of a person because of their race.
Exactly.
So it doesn't mean that one has more power over you and the other one doesn't. If you're black and you hate white people because they're white, you're fucking racist. If you're black and you hate Indians, you're a racist. If you're white and you hate Indians, if you're Indians and you hate black, I don't care. If you hate a group of people because of their color of their skin, you're a fucking racist, regardless of what your race is. Period.
Exactly right.
And I wish you could just take all the races, put them in a fucking place, and go have at it. And you guys go and have your little war and leave the rest of us the fuck alone, because the rest of us would like to live in peace, and we can do that. And we know that having this cultural diversity in this country is what made this country great, and it will continue to be great as long as we allow it to progress and we don't try to hold it back the way racists want to do, because they want to keep the purity, which is a crock of shit. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is student debt and debt in general.
Okay. Student debt. Yeah, that's something that, what is student debt? It's been sold to us. It was something that's sold to us with the idea that we all needed to go to college and get a degree, and that. But I mean, it's something that we should be doing in today's world. But it was sold to us like that we need to do this, so we need to go into debt to do this. Like, we have to pay $40,000, so we have to go get a loan from the bank that we're not going to be able to pay back until we're like in our like 80s or 90s. I'm paraphrasing kind of, but this has been sold to us as an idea that you need to go to college in order to make decent money in order to live a happy life. A couple senators have put it on the table that canceling student debt would be that would be part of their platform, is to cancel all student debt. The argument I hear most against that from boomers is like, you took out a loan, you pay it back. Great. That would work if the loan that we took out wasn't basically highway robbery. It was
right.
hidden highway robbery.
Right.
Like, I'm for the school of thought. Yeah, you take out a loan, you put it back. But I've got friends that went to college and paid. They took out a $40,000 loan, and this was like 10 years ago. They still owe somehow $39,000 on it. It's like, that's not a loan. That's robbery.
It is.
They're not anywhere close to paying that off, and they're not going to be anytime soon. Like, that's not a normal loan. It's weird.
This was designed deliberately to get people to be okay with debt, and in fact, in the 80s, it was preached that if you want to be able to achieve wealth, you have to be able to create debt and have and keep your credit score up. That was important. Mm-hmm. So in order to keep your credit score up, you had to have debt. You couldn't just pay it off. You couldn't just be not owe debt. You had to have debt and pay it off. So they got people into this mode of always having debt. So then, we go, especially young people, they don't think about debt as, they look at it as free money. They don't think about the consequences down the road that one day this debt's going to come knocking on their door and they want to collect it. So this is why, you'll see at spring break, these credit card companies out there with their tents giving away credit cards to people who don't have jobs. Right. It is. It's predatory because they know they're going to get these people sucked into debt, and that their parents are going to pay that debt up that they can't pay because they don't have a job. And they're going to get them trapped in that whole debt cycle for the rest of their lives.
And I hate to say, they really don't teach much about credit cards when you're in school. They don't teach much on financial education. And I think that would be that's something that we should add to the curriculum that needs, we're forced to take algebra, geometry, and there was one other math class I think that we had. Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry. Mm-hmm. Okay, great, but we also need business education or some kind of financial education, so that we can, we get out and we know what a credit card is. So when we're at that tent and these people are trying to sell us credit cards, that we know enough to say whether to be informed about whether we want that credit card or not. if we're going to be able to pay it back when we spend stuff on it. Because I guarantee, like, if we had some financial education in our earlier years, like in high school, like a lot of those credit card companies wouldn't be able to sell us on so many credit cards.
You're right, but that would take the reforming of our educational system, and they don't want that
because it would be beneficial for them.
Our school system is set up to have drones to teach you how to become a good employee and how to be in debt, so that you have to have that job for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
We won't get into great detail because we could probably do an entire episode just on racism.
I believe it. Yeah.
We can do an episode on student debt and debt. What I will say about student debt is that, there is this movement, and Bernie Sanders was talking about it, and as you just said, there are senators out there who are talking about getting rid of all student debt. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't believe college should be free. And when I say that, what I mean is I don't believe that anything should be given to anybody, because I think that if you don't have some skin in the game, it doesn't mean anything to you. It doesn't mean anything to you the way you could just go, I'm tired of this, and walk away. In the meantime, you've cost taxpayers for a year, 2 years, or however long you decide to stay in school. And for what? Because you decided, I'm tired of this, and walk away. So if, I know this is not going to be popular, but I'm dead serious when I tell you, I would be all about having the mandatory draft reinstated.
Really?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because there are people out there who are lost. There are people out there young people who have no idea what they want to do. They've never been given any discipline, any responsibility, and the military will do that. And whether it's, however, 1 year, 2 years, or months, whatever they decide to come up with, it will teach these people to be responsible. It teaches them teamwork. It teaches them how to be someone other than just an individual who only thinks about themselves. Because now you have to care about the person next to you, because that person may be the person that keeps you alive. So you have to care about one another. And if there's one thing this country needs, it's how to learn how to care about each other, because we don't. And we show that in our actions. And so I say, if we don't make it mandatory, I say, look, you sign up for 2 years in the military and your college is paid for. How about that? Now because now you're giving something back. Or what if you sign up for the Peace Corps or something where you're giving back to society? And, say, all right, for every 10 hours, and again, this is just numbers off the top of my head. I don't know that these numbers would work out, but for every 10 hours that you work in the Peace Corps, you get a quarter of an hour for college, credit, that's paid for.
So it really, at least be something,
right,
kind of trade-off. Yeah.
Right, because now you earned it. It's not given to you. And I can tell you this, I had cousins my uncle was very wealthy. He was one of the first people in Florida back in the 60s who had his own pool company and was building pools up when Florida started booming. He was a millionaire. My cousins didn't work for anything. They were always given everything. I remember working my ass off to buy my first car, and I was so proud of my car. I brought it down, and I see my cousin's car, and he's got this cherry red fucking fastback Mustang with 60s on the back, just fucking beautiful. And I was
Daddy
like,
bought it?
Daddy bought it. You know what he said? I don't want it. I go, what? Why? He
I'll
goes,
take it.
No, that's what I said. He goes, it's too loud. I go, what? So anyway... So this is what I'm saying. So because they never had to buy anything, they did, a lot of their stuff just got destroyed. Whether it was stereos, whether it was their catamaran, their catamaran was sunk because they just didn't take care of it. They had horses, motorcycles, everything you could imagine, and didn't take care of shit because Daddy would buy them a new one as soon as it broke. And so when you don't have any skin in the game, I bought my own car. So I polished that bitch and washed it every week. I took care of that car like it was gold because I paid out the ass. I worked my ass off for that car. And that's, there's this old proverb that talks about this guy who's filthy rich, and he's going to turn the company over to his son, and he tells his son to go out and make $10,000. Folks, bear with me just for a second with this story because it's going somewhere. So he tells his son, go out and get a job, make $10,000, bring it back to me, and then I will give the company to you. So he goes, okay. So he goes and tells his mother, hey, Dad said if I get $10,000 and bring it back to him, he's going to give me the company. And she goes, well, I got some money. I'll give it to you. You know, wait a month or so. Give it to your dad, and then you can have the company. He says, all right. So they did that. He takes the money to his dad a couple months later, and his dad takes it, and he's got a fireplace in his office. Sorry, I'm not the best storyteller. He's got a fireplace in his office with the fire going. He takes the $10,000 and he throws it in the fire. And the son just looks at him and like, what the hell's wrong with you? You crazy? And he goes, now I want you to go out and I want you to earn another $10,000 and bring it back to me. So the kid goes to his mother and he goes, you are not going to believe what Dad did. But he just threw fucking $10,000 in the fire. And he goes, she's like, he must be losing it. She goes, well, look, I've got some more money. I'll give it to you. We'll wait another couple. Let's wait 3 months and we'll go back and give it to him. So he says, okay. So we wait 3 months. He goes back. He goes, here, Dad, here's another $10,000. Dad takes the money, throws it in the fire again. And the son's just like his jaw just hits the ground. He's like, what the hell is wrong with him? And the father goes, now go get another $10,000, earn another $10,000 and bring it in here to me, and then you can have the company. So he goes and tells his mom. Wow. His mom goes, look, son, I don't have any more money to give you. And he goes, you're going to have to go work for it. So the kid, takes whatever time it was, 4 or 5 months to 6 months to make the $10,000. He brings it into his dad and goes, here, Dad, here's $10,000. The dad throws it in the fire, and the kid runs after it to grab the fucking money out of the fire. And he goes, now the company's yours. Because he knew that kid went in to get that money because he worked his ass off for that money. And he didn't give a shit about the other $10,000 because he didn't work for it. And if you don't have some skin in the game, it's too easy to give up. It's too easy to not care. And so you have to have some sort of skin in the game, whether it's college and whether it's universal health care. You've got to have a reason that you want this, and not just be given it to you because you won't appreciate it if it's given to you. So I hope that was worth it.
That story I thought that story was worth it too. At first I was going to say, okay, Boomer, but but I held back because I was like, and I'm glad I did. I heard that that was a good story. Like that. I mean, but it is true. You value things that you work for more than you do something that would be handed to you. So I mean, some skin in the game, yeah. It's some of it would be something
something and
something, but
it doesn't necessarily have to be like I said, mandatory. What was the word? A draft.
Draft.
Yeah, but if you go to, I go look. 2 years in the military, your college is paid for. It's simple. We kill two birds with one stone with that. So
how long does it? What about the GI Bill? Is still but how long does that take? Is that
you can? Well, it depends because I don't know if the Army still offers a 2-year program or not, but they used to offer a 2-year program. But you get an ungodly amount of money for the amount of money you put in, and it's the amount of money you put into it is very minimal, and you get a good chunk of money out of it. So again, it's to me it makes sense, and you can, and people can do that today. You can go into the military if you don't have another way to pay for college. Not only can you go in and get this GI Bill, but you can take courses while you're in the military, and they will give you time so you can take your courses so you can get credits while you're in the military, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, and you could probably have half your damn degree done before you get out of the military. So it's something to think about.
That's something interesting. They don't really tell you so much anymore, really.
Right? Yeah.
They don't go into that side of it.
They really should, because they've had a hard time with recruiting, because now that there are certain states that have raised the minimum wage to $15, recruitment has gone down because people are going, oh wait, I can work at Starbucks for $15 an hour instead of enlisting into the military and putting my life at risk by being sent over to the Middle East for $7.50 or whatever it is. I think I'll go make mocha lattes. And the only reason I say mocha lattes is because it's the only thing I know. I know they have coffee, but I don't know all that shit. I just know that when I go there. I have a mocha latte.
I always get that they have like a passion fruit tea with lemonade that I really like.
Really?
I used to drink their caramel frappuccinos, but I can't.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah,
frappuccino. I don't drink mocha lattes. Mocha frappuccinos.
Mocha
that's
frappuccino.
What I drink.
Okay.
But it's so rare I drink that because it's so full of sugar.
Bad for you. I can't do that anymore. I look at one of those wrong and my ass will jiggle for like a week.
My face goes like this. That. It's like after I'm done drinking, it's like. All right, number 3, Donald Trump.
Oh God.
Here's the thing. Donald Trump is not just a problem for the millennials. He's a problem for this entire country.
Whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
Even if you're supporting him, he's a problem. I'll say this. If you're supporting him and you're not rich and white, he's a problem for you.
Dave Chappelle on his special was talking about, he said, that because he's wealthy, he goes, you know what, because I'm wealthy now, I get invited to, these rich white parties. And he goes, and did you know rich white people call poor white people white trash? And he goes, and I'm not down with that,
Yeah, no.
And he said, but that's what they do. They call them white trash. And he goes, and I stood in line like every American should to vote. And I saw these people and they're sitting there talking about Donald Trump is going to fight for them. And he goes, no, you dumb motherfuckers. He goes, he's going to fight for me because I'm rich. So, and it's right. If you're not rich, I don't care. If you want to be rich, you're not. Mm-hmm. You're not rich.
Exactly. We are all more of us are only like a couple bad months away from being homeless. Like, really, if you think about it, if for some reason, if we lost our jobs, we could be homeless and pretty quick. Someone that's in Donald Trump class, someone that's in Trump's class, the people that he's fighting for, can lose their jobs and they would be fine living off whatever money that they have. In fact, a lot of them would live off the money for the rest of their lives because
right.
But those are the people that are being helped right now. The help is not getting where it needs to be, which is the people that are 2 months away from, if they lost their job, they're 2 months away from being evicted.
And I want to say this. The bashing that's done about Donald Trump, at least on this show, is warranted because I will gladly admit there have been some good things that Donald Trump has done.
You got to give credit where it's due.
But let me tell you, it does not outweigh the bad shit he's done and what he's cost this country. And I will gladly debate anybody, especially someone like dumbass Tommy Lauren that I cannot stand.
Oh my God! How did she get on TV? How did she? You know what? I have my own theories about how she got on TV.
Yeah.
She got on TV. I'm not going to say any of them on this show, but
of course that's misogynistic to even insinuate something like that because or sexist because try
to come up with another logical reason.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
sorry.
Good luck.
You're
with
right. That was wrong. That was wrong of me.
I
apologize.
No. I didn't say it was wrong.
Oh, I know.
I just said there will be people out there who will think it's wrong. I don't care. Yeah. All right, because honestly, we could spend another episode on Donald Trump alone. Number 4, the economy.
Okay, yeah, the economy. Well, it's in the crapper right now because we're in the middle of a pandemic still. But this is the weirdest thing about this whole pandemic is that it feels like at this point we're half-assing everything, and that's the part that it feels like we're kind of we're kind of reopening, we're kind of taking our masks off. But we're also kind of shut down. So it's I feel like we're getting the worst of both worlds. And I feel like that's having a draining effect on the economy right now. Because we have we're trying to reopen, but we can't reopen half-assed because then the numbers spike. And so then we still have to stay half closed. So not everything can open back up. So we're screwing not only our health over, we're screwing the economy over right now as well. Because we're half open, half closed. Rather, if we just closed everything down, it would be okay. We close everything down, let the pandemic pass, get that out of the way, or reopen the economy and.
Okay, so and I agree, and so here's what I would suggest: is that there needs to be a national mask mandate that says across this nation, you go out in public, you need to wear a mask. If you need to social distance, let's reopen everything and keep those rules in effect. So all you anti-maskers who want the economy open up, then shut the fuck up and put your goddamn mask on if you want the economy open up.
Pick
but
one.
Donald Trump doesn't have the balls to sit there and make a national mask mandate because he knows it's going to piss off all these conspiracy theorists that think that the government's trying to, control us. It's like, and I go, look, you have a fucking birth certificate. You have a social security number. You signed up for selective services when you turned 18 if you were male. I go, you have a driver's license.
Cell phone.
You're under control. You've been under control. And you want to sit there and think a mask is what's going to, that the government finally controlled you because they got you to wear a mask?
It's not infringing on your rights.
It's not. It's absolutely
not. They make you wear pants too. I'm sorry.
Right, and a shirt. Yeah. It's like... So, just stupidity beyond belief. Anyway, I say make it a national mandate that you have to wear a mask. Open the economy back up. If you feel like you're one of those people that this could hurt you because of your whatever health issues you may have, stay home. And you know what? And start doing what it takes to get better and healthier. Exactly. We know there are certain things that you can do. Exercise. Eat properly. Take vitamin D3. Those things we know help fight, and keep your immune system strong. And if you're not doing that, and you're sitting your ass on the couch, and you're not exercising, you're still eating your ho-hos and Twinkies, then that's on you. The rest of the world shouldn't shut down because you're being lazy and don't want to take care of your own health.
Don't want to wear a mask. Yeah, exactly.
And so if you feel like you're a threat, here's the thing. I go, look. There's nothing. I challenge anyone to find something you can't order on fucking line. In fact, not only can you order it online,
it's cheaper
and it gets to you faster.
Yeah.
It's like I can't believe how fast this shit gets to you.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to be part of the economy, then stay at home. But I think we should open the economy back up. Keep practice social distancing and wearing the mask, and let's get through this.
I'd be okay with it one way or the other, but this half-ass stuff is just not working. It's not working for our health, and it's not working for the economy. It's like just stop. It needs to go one way or the other, in my opinion. Honestly, I'd be okay with it. Like I'd be okay with either one, just not this half-ass stuff.
Right.
Not this half-ass. Like okay, we're gonna be kind of open, kind of closed. That's not helping anybody.
You're absolutely correct. All right, let's see here. Number 5 is. Can't read my own writing.
You could have been a doctor then.
Yes, I could have if my hands are too big, and I don't have the patience. Like you ever play Operation, and you have to like take those little tweezers and pull the bone out. So I'm just like, and I'd
buzz him every time.
Exactly.
His nose goes off every freaking time.
Oh, climate change. That's what it was. Climate change.
Climate change. Yeah, and the reason this bothers my generation so much is because nothing is being done or not nothing, but not much is being done anymore. In fact, with Donald Trump and his administration, they have rolled back so many environmental regulations. And the thing is, my generation is going to feel this. Okay, the older generations are not gonna they're not gonna be here as long as we're gonna be here now. Like they've lived most of their life.
Except me, I will be.
You're fine.
I'm an exception.
You can stay. You can when the revolution comes. You're fine.
I already tell everyone I'm going to live to be 120, and no one believes me. But I go, you know what? You're not going to be here to find out anyway.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Who knows? You never know. That could happen. It could all happen.
But you're right. The older generation, they just again. If it doesn't affect them, they don't care. Mm-hmm. And I go, how do you not care about your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren? But they don't. They just don't care.
Exactly. And, we don't have... We have like a Republican-controlled Senate right now. One of the things I what's the word? Not despise. Yeah, maybe it's despise. One of the things I don't like about... most Republican politicians is they refuse to listen to scientists. And not that a lot of Democrats, there's some Democrats that do this too. So it's but they will refuse to listen to scientists who have been studying climate change. So they call it a hoax, and it's like, why? Have you been studying it? Or are we going to listen to the 97% of scientists who have been studying it and agree that this is a problem and it is something that we're going to have to face at one point or another? Because we don't have a planet B.
Right.
This is it. Earth is it's our home, and we if we don't protect it, we are going to be screwed. we're already seeing effects of that. We're seeing we are seeing ice caps melting. Maybe not as fast as some people thought it was going to happen, but it is happening.
It's happening pretty damn fast. You be asking
yeah,
me. I've seen some of the shit that's going on. I was like, holy shit, I thought it was happening faster than they expected, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't know. I thought it was going a little slower, but at the same time, it's like,
well, the problem is that those who don't want to believe in it say, oh well, yeah, it might be happening, but it's not because of us, because we don't, we think too much of ourselves to sit there and act like we have an effect, and it's like, really?
But it's like it's the people that haven't studied it that have been saying that. Right. It's like, if you actually look at the data first of all, you have to be able to understand the data. Like you have to be able to look at the graphs, look at what they're showing you, and understand it, because I think that's a problem. Like illiteracy amongst research illiteracy, I guess, is I don't know the word I'm looking for. I get tongue tied so easily now.
You and me both.
But that's the thing, is maybe we're not putting it in terms that people can understand. That I don't know. I don't know where the disconnect is amongst.
Here's the disconnect: is that it's fear based. And first off, we shouldn't call it climate change, because it doesn't pertain to us. Okay, we have to do something where it pertains to us, because we don't think of climate change as pertaining to us. We have to do something about, I had a name for it, which was brilliant, because then it includes us. It's like, I forget. And I apologize, because it was brilliant. But we have to make it. We have to direct it towards us as being personal. Like, it's going to affect us personally. It's going to affect our air. It's going to affect our lungs. It's going to affect our water. Like, I had Stale Bailey on a couple weeks ago, and about our drinking water and all the chemicals that are in our water, and the problems with our water because of pollution, because of the dumping into our waterways, because of oil being dumped into our waterways, or not dumped but dripping into our waterways, or leaked into our waterways. That these things are making it through. People, whenever they take samples of the water, they do it right next to the treatment center. But they don't, that's not the water that finally makes it to your faucet. Mm-hmm. There's so much shit that's picked up between the plant and your tap water that, there's a slew of shit in there. And she had gotten cancer. Her father got cancer. Her uncle got cancer. Her brother got cancer. Their dog got cancer. And there were so many neighbors who got cancer in that area because of this chemical that was being dumped. That was a fire retardant chemical that NASA was dumping. It was supposed to be, I forget, it was some really low number, like 70 or bits per million or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there were like 100 million. Like it was not, like, it was so off the charts that you go, how the fuck did this ever? Was this allowed to happen?
Exactly.
And yet, and with all these people getting cancer, there's obviously a correlation there, and yet you're never told about it. So so these things that happen to us personally, we have to direct it towards us personally. And the other thing is that fear has to be immediate. Mm-hmm. We talked about this, and for everybody who's joining us today, we did this episode last week, but as you probably know, if you've watched any of my shows in studio, we've been having camera difficulties, and so we're redoing this. So Robby was generous enough to come back today and talk to me, and so we kind of discussed this last week as well. So this will be old news to us. It'll be new to you, because this will be the first time you hear it. Yeah. So. When I talked about before, it's like, if you call me a name and I say, Robby, call me that name again, I'm going to punch you in the nose. You're not likely to do it because you're 5 feet away from me. Mm-hmm. But if you're in California,
on social media,
and I go, Robby, call me a name again, you're going to go, name. You're not going to care, because I'm 3,000 miles away. And
I'm petty. I'm not just going to, I'm serious. I'll write it like 5 or 6 times, or like exactly. just all the way down the page, just so you have to scroll through it to reply. Exactly.
And so, because the fear is not immediate, so you don't feel threatened. It's only when it's immediate does fear actually work. So those are two of the
maybe
reasons.
that's the way we need to treat it. Treat it like it's immediate, so it lights a fire under people's ass. Like, hey, this is something that we need to work on, because despite whether you're going to be here or not in 50 years,
right? And that's the thing, is that we need to focus on those things that are immediate, that are happening right now to us. We can't focus on in 50, like in 2050, the fields are going to be barren because because it's going to be so hot, we're not going to be able to grow anything. So there's going to be a shortage of food, throughout the world, because baby boomers, most of them aren't going to be around 2050.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
If not all of them, the only one who'll probably be around is me. So,
you'll still be here,
and I want to eat.
See, you say baby boomers, and it's like, I know you're in that generation, but you're when I say okay boomer, it doesn't necessarily mean you were born in that generation. Sometimes it's just the mentality. Like, it's just
right. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's like I just want to make it clear, I don't consider you to be like a typical. You're not a typical baby boomer. You know that.
I know. Yeah, I know that. But I also know people who are boomers or baby boomers who aren't your typical boomers either. But we see, and we call those boomers out. We call them for what they are. Go, you are the ones. You people who give us a bad name, and it really is. You're self-centered. You think of no one but yourself, and you're so closed-minded. You're unable to look at things from a different perspective because you don't want to. You want to live in your little bubbled world, and you want to die into. You want to sit on your.
But they think the world is the same as it was when they were growing up too.
Yeah, well, that's because they don't get out into the world. That's why. Okay. Number 6, which is a major one, social media technology.
This one, and this I feel like this almost plagues the next generation more than it plagues millennials. I mean, it does. Like, it is something that I think we've all gotten used to, having our cell phones on us all the time and always being on social media. But my generation grew up in a time before social media was a thing. Like, we grew up in a time before even MySpace. And, AOL was just like, I remember when AOL was just becoming a thing. But I also remember living in a world before cell phones. And I remember living in a world before all that social media stuff that we have now. But the next generation, I feel like they're more, I don't know if they would be able to survive without it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but it's like how they've grown up knowing this their whole lives. Kids nowadays are growing up with cell phones and tablets and learning about apps and how to do things with technology. They're growing up with technology that's a technology that's unprecedented, that we never had. Right. And that is, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine growing up with just already being thrown into that level of technology. Of course, they're going to run circles around it. Like when I'm older, is like they're going to run circles around me with all the holographic stuff or whatever they come out with then. Right.
But that's the way it goes. I remember when VCRs came out, and my father and mother couldn't figure out how to set the timer on the VCR or how to get it to work.
And it was so easy.
It was, and so we'd go up and Go fix that, and we'd fix it, And now I see myself sitting there with my partner, who's much younger than me, and he loses his patience with me. I mean, he's always nice about it, but he'll go, "Well, just do this," and I go, you say just do this, like I know what just do this means. Like I go, I've told you, the only thing I know how to do on the computer is find porn. That's it. I don't know how to do anything else. Beyond that, this is a magical world that I have, that I don't know how to get to work.
It's a magical device that I can pull 1,000 dicks up in a second if I
Right. I know how to do that, but other than that, hey. And I don't really see a use for it other than that. But you're right. And each generation, they grow up. I remember when I was in junior high school, I took a typing class. And I think I got up to 30 words a minute.
It was typewriter back then?
Yes, a real typewriter. Of course, it was. I will say this: it was electronic. So
okay. All right, well, let's do that. No, at least there's.
It was electric. Yeah. It was electric typewriter. But I see these kids today, and like you said, they're like this. And I go, and they never took even the first class, but they grew up with it. They're not even looking. I go, in fact, my partner, he's like, And I go,
just like that. Yeah, gets it done.
How are you doing that? But when you're born with it in your hands, practically, that's how they're doing it. And so, like you said, when you get older and there's holographs and stuff, you're gonna go, how do you do this? And the kid's like,
you just do
this. Exactly. You go, what is this? I love when it comes back to the younger generation, because right now, and I have to tell you, I'm never a big fan of calling people names. Like I don't like when people call someone a boomer, because it's what it is. It's a way to dismiss them from taking anything they say and giving them any credibility. And not all boomers are idiots. Yeah. So in the same thing with women, when they say, "Oh, you're trying to mansplain," no. I'm trying to explain to you, because obviously you don't understand, and don't try to make up a made up word, mansplain, and try to take me out of the conversation because you don't like what I have to say.
Exactly. Mansplaining is a thing, but it's a different thing. Like
right, exactly. Yeah. But you can't just use it at will, and that's what they do. Whenever they don't want to hear what you had to say, that they automatically drop that in there as if you don't have a right to the conversation, and you do. The one that I tend to overlook are the Karens. Because those people have gotten away with shit for decades, and nobody's ever called them out. So now that we have camera phones and you get to see how they really behave, I like that. But what I also see is that you see these videos, these supposed Karen videos, and what you do is you see these little smart asses with their little camera phones starting shit to try to get people to get riled up, and then go, "Oh, look, it's a Karen." It's like, no, that's not a Karen. You're just a little shit. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're doing. And you know what? One day you're going to be that age, and some little shit's going to do that to you. And so, it always comes back around. So,
yeah. So, but I mean, that's the thing. Social media has been like it like we said earlier. It does point out, like, it shows us the extremes. It shows us the extremes that people get to, and it's clickbait and sensational.
It is. But what it also does is it skews reality.
Yeah.
It makes it look one way, like I talked about with racism. Yes, racism is a problem. Unfortunately, it's always going to be a problem in this country. It's going to be a problem across the world, no matter what. If we could all be one color, we'd still find something else to fight about. Mm-hmm. Fight about. I guarantee you, if we did what they said, oh, if you don't like America, they tell black, go back to Africa.
It's like you literally drag their ancestors.
Right, exactly. So I go, even if you could have your way, and if you could send all black people back to Africa, we would still find something to fight about. Mm-hmm. Guaranteed. Ask Ireland. Yeah. We will find something to fight about because we're fucking idiots. That's why. So, all right. So we know that social. Oh, and if you want to, so true. You want to see a genius, you need to watch David Bowie. David Bowie did an interview back in 2000.
Oh, I miss him.
Oh, my God. He spoke about the internet, and the guy who was interviewing him was like, what? David Bowie was speaking as if he were here today and saw this shit happening. He called it out in 2000 and called what's going on today in this interview. And I was going, Jesus Christ, this guy was a genius. Yeah. I mean, you listen to him, and he was amazing. And for people who don't understand what Robby was talking about with AOL, it was a dial-up. The struggle was real.
Oh yeah, if there's any Zoomers like watching, seriously, that's what it was. Like you couldn't be on the phone and the internet at the same time.
Not only that, but you had to be like, for me, for porn, like it would take forever to download one picture, and so it would start coming down, and I go, it'd get about a quarter way. I go, yeah, that doesn't look interesting enough, and I can't, because I was like, I'm not waiting an hour to see this shitty picture. I want a good picture. The struggle was real, I tell you. The struggle
was so real back then. And see, that's something today's generation will never realize. Now I can pull up like 1,000 pictures.
I know, exactly.
In a second. Exactly. I can be picky, and I can go to page 42 if I really need to, because there's that many pictures to choose from.
I can say this. I once said, if I wish I was born during this time, I would be in heaven. But I'm glad I wasn't, because honest to God, if I was born in this time, I would have never accomplished anything in my life because I would have been on the computer looking at porn my whole life. I would just, fortunately, porn wasn't available the way it is today. Otherwise, I would never accomplished anything.
But look at all the stuff that you did see during your lifetime. Look at all that, and it's just like you saw some of our most incredible technological advances in like, because I mean most of our technology that we use nowadays is no more than 50 years old. Most.
Right.
And you saw all that come to be. Like you saw all the technology that we're using nowadays. So you've really seen the world change.
Yes, drastically. And you know, and there's a lot of good that's happened in the past 50 plus years. But with it, there's been a lot of bad shit that's come, and that's to be expected with growth. But what we need to do is keep the good shit and get rid of the bad shit, and not just accept the fact, oh well, this is bad, and we have to deal with it. Yes, we have to deal with it by getting rid of it. You don't, you know, you either, there's two ways to deal with it. You either work to get rid of it, or you just bitch about it. One of those two ways. And if you're just going to bitch, it's never going away. Mm-hmm. And you're going to, whatever you're bitching about today, you'll be bitching about 10 years from now because you didn't do shit about it.
Exactly true.
All right, number 7, older generations. Well, I think we kind of covered that.
Yeah, skip it.
We know that.
We've been talking about that the whole time.
Exactly. All right, number 8, gun control and gun violence.
Okay. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing that's happening. See, the problem is with gun control and gun violence is, like, it's so, like, everything's so protected by the NRA now. You know, I feel like we can't even have common sense gun laws because of the NRA. Because every single time someone tries to pass a piece of even just common sense gun legislation, what happens is the NRA comes in and they immediately say, like, okay, they're trying to take your guns. It's like, well, no, nobody's. I mean,
there are some people out there trying,
people,
but that's not the majority of people.
No, it's really not. Most people in Congress today are not talking about taking away everyone's guns. Like, you have the Second Amendment, right? And that's, like, first of all, that's not going to change. It's just, you know, the Second Amendment was written. It's going to be there forever. But we need to consider that at the time the Second Amendment was written, what was their worst gun then? It was a barely functioning musket. Now, nowadays, look at the guns that we have. We have assault rifles that people can buy. And what's the purpose of an assault rifle if not to kill a lot of people in a short period of time?
Right.
So,
with these magazines that hold ungodly amount of rounds.
Now, I worked in customer service at Publix. Believe me, this is relevant. So, one of my favorite stories to tell about when I was in customer service at Publix was when I had a customer try to use a coupon for Kellogg's Pop-Tarts, but she was buying Crest toothpaste. And she sat there, like, and I told her, like, I can't use this coupon because, you know, it's a coupon for one product and you're buying a total other product. So she's legit sitting here arguing with me, saying that how this coupon should be worked because it's the same company. It's not. But she's arguing with me, and my point to this story is I don't trust the general public to use the right coupon.
Right.
Why would I trust anyone in the general public to use an assault rifle the same way? I mean, maybe not anyone, but, you know, why would I sell that to the general public? It's something that's designed to kill a lot of people in a short amount of time, and I don't trust them not to do that. Right.
Well, I will say I agree that there should be some common sense gun laws that are passed. I think that you should have to be, you know, licensed. And when I say licensed, I mean that you need to be, you know, given a course on how to, you know, for gun safety and how to, you know, how to fire the firearm that you're going to have. And whether it's a handgun or a rifle or whatever, you need to learn, because they do fire differently, and they're capable of different things, you know, different amount of damage. So you need to learn how to handle them properly. I will say this though, and this is an argument which I don't really have an answer for. When I went to school, it was common for kids to have, you know, a shotgun or something in their truck, you know, in their pickup truck, because they were, and I went, not a shotgun but a rifle, because they would go hunting with their dads and stuff. Mm-hmm. We never had an issue, ever had an issue during those days back in the 70s and the 80s of gun violence. There was never a school shooting. And so it's not just the gun laws that need to change. There's something that happened to our society as a whole between that time and Columbine, which I believe was the first major shooting.
That was really the first one that
Right.
made the news like
Right.
that. Yeah.
So so something happened between those days and Columbine, and it happened between the mindset of people in this country, and something changed, and we need to get to the bottom of that. That's where we solve this problem for real. Because even with common sense gun laws, we're still going to have these mass shootings because even a crazy person can learn how to shoot a gun, and if you don't have any idea that this is a crazy person, they'll take the course, they'll pass the course, and they'll still kill people. And that's the argument. And I go, yes, I understand it's not 100%, but it's better than nothing. So you can't argue, because it's not 100% foolproof, we shouldn't do anything. That's ridiculous. So,
Yeah, and unfortunately, our current administration has made it easier for people to get guns. I have like mental health problems.
Well, until fucking LaPierre is kicked out of the NRA too, there's a fucking nutcase.
Mr. Wayne LaPierre.
Seriously.
Yeah, he's something else.
I must say, when I say LaPierre is a nutcase, I'm saying that is in my humble opinion. Just like Mitch McConnell is the most treasonous bastard that this country has ever seen, in my humble opinion. Okay?
I think Mitch McConnell found the resurrection stone. Have you seen pictures of him lately?
No, I try not to look at him.
I think he's do you ever watch Harry Potter, or did you ever read any of the books?
No, I never read
Any
the books.
Harry
I saw the movies, but not. I mean,
I was going to say any Harry Potter fans will like that reference. I think I think he found the resurrection stone.
Oh, okay. Carrie probably knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's because he's like, if you see any pictures of him, he looks like he's rotting right now. It's weird. He's got something wrong with him.
And to me. And again, I know this is going to come across wrong because I'm all about looking at things from a different perspective. But I have looked at these things from a different perspective, and that's why I have the opinion of him that I have. And he couldn't rot away fast enough. And I would not shed a tear or feel one bit sorry when he passes, because there are just bad people in this world who I don't care if we lose them. I think Thanos was right. And I don't give a shit if I get. But we do have bad people in this world. If we lost them, I wouldn't be one bit upset. And I'm not talking about. We all have those times where we act shitty, but we're not talking about people who act shitty. We're talking about shitty people, and there's a bunch of shitty people out there. And Mitch McConnell, in my opinion, is one of the shittiest, if not the shittiest person in this country.
He is the biggest hypocrite in Congress right now.
Him and fucking Ted Cruz, that little ass kid, in my humble opinion. All right. Entitlement. Now, this could go both ways. I don't know if they mean that your generation has this sense of entitlement, which it does.
Yeah.
But then so do baby boomers.
That's what we're known for.
I think all the generations are, since the greatest generation, ever, we've all been born with this sense of entitlement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at it. But we have this sense of entitlement because look at the generation before us that gave us all trophies.
Yeah.
Not that, and that wasn't even you. That was, I think, Gen Xers really were, the generation that was, doing that to us. No, well, it was a little bit of both, I think. They were...
I don't know that we, I don't, see, personally, I've always been about competition because competition's a good thing.
Exactly.
Look, you cannot be successful without failure. And these parents who want to protect their children from ever failing, you're setting them up for failure. You need to let them fail. You need to let them sense disappointment so they know how to overcome it.
You have to learn to get back up on the horse.
Right. And parents are, there are parents out there who just will do whatever it takes. They would build a foam house with foam walls, so their kids
will protect the precious child. Yes.
And even in their 40s and 50s, it's and I've seen that. I have seen 40-plus-year-old men whose mothers were still alive and taking care of them. I'm going, what the hell is wrong with you? You have done this your child a disservice by not letting him grow up and become a man. And yet we see that all the time. And parents will sit there and go, well, it's because I love my child. No, it's not. It's because you're afraid that your kid's going to grow up and you're no longer needed. That's what it is.
Unfortunately, that's
I go.
That's
and you know
what it is.
You shouldn't want to hinder your kids' growth because you want to be needed. You should be wanted. Your kids should want to be around you, not need to be around you. And that's what it is. It's their own insecurities. And again, I could get into that whole thing about marriage and how they. Never mind. I won't. Because again, I don't think I'm going to have many women listeners anyway, but if they were, they'd be pissed. Anyway.
Entitlement's one of those things that's like, it goes across the board. I don't know if there's going to be a solution for that one. That's just going to be like, I mean, you're going to have entitled generations, entitled people. I don't know.
It's simple. I had a guest on who's a best-selling author, Larry Winget, and he wrote a book that said, your kids are your fault. Something. It was a title like that. He wrote some great books. Like Grow Up Hair and stuff like that. he's on the right, but he does speak truth, and the things he says. I know that the politically correct SJWs out there would hate the way he says it, but he's absolutely correct. When you have parents. And I've experienced this. When you're in a restaurant and you have two mothers sitting there and the baby's crying and they're ignoring the baby, and they don't have the courtesy to get up and take the baby outside and silence the baby, do whatever you need to do, feed it, change its diaper, pat it, whatever you got to do, because they're enjoying their conversation. In the meantime, everybody else in the fucking restaurant isn't, because they have to listen to this screaming baby. Now, mothers have this ability to shut out the screaming, We'll take the fucking baby home. I've seen them do it in movie theaters. Now, I raised kids. And so I remember when my daughter was a little child and we went to the movie theater and she started crying. I picked her up, walked out the movie theater.
As you should.
As I should. I should not sit there and go, I'm entitled. I paid for my ticket. That entitles me to sit here and listen to the movie and make it miserable for the rest of you. And yet I've seen people, I got an argument with a lady who sat there and thought because she bought her ticket, she should be able to talk to her niece as if they were in their living room. And I go, who raised you, honestly? But that's the kind of society that we have more and more. And it's unfortunate. And then,
It really is. It really is unfortunate. But I mean, that's so. I don't know. Like, really, what's the way to get rid of that?
It's just simply having parents pay attention to your kids, quit ignoring them, and take the time. Yes, it takes effort to correct your child, but do it. If you don't want to take the time to correct your child, I'll tell you the same thing as I would. If you're not going to take your pet out for a walk, then don't fucking buy a pet. Keep your legs closed and don't fucking have a kid. That's simple. If you don't want to take care of it, don't fucking have one.
I agree with that. I mean, that's another tangent I could get on
Yes.
for a long time. The crying alone is the reason I don't want a kid.
It's funny because when you're a parent, you really can. Because as a father, it didn't bother me. But now that my kids are grown, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard.
You shouldn't have to listen to that in public.
No, and again, even as a parent, I realized that. And my kids, when they were out, I don't expect them to be good little soldiers. They're kids, but I do expect them to behave themselves and act respectful.
And to listen to you when you're speaking.
And so if we're out in a restaurant, don't be acting a fool. Don't be running around the restaurant, jumping up and down in chairs, putting your face up against the window like I've seen parents in all.
They let their kids loose. Yeah, some of them really do.
Some of the worst are the more affluent parents who let their kids run around like in very affluent neighborhoods.
Are you talking about like affluent, like they had a nanny for them the whole life, like affluent, or like
they probably have a nanny, but yeah, I would say that until they came home or whatever. But I don't know that for sure. But they're obviously well off, because of the neighborhoods that they live in, the houses that they live in, and yet they'll go to restaurants and stuff, and their kids will run around like they own the fucking place. And I'm going, you think you're doing your kid any service here by letting him and her do that as if they own the place? I know you don't let them do this shit in your own house, but you let them do it out in public because you want them to think, oh, they're special or something. Anyway, all right, number 10. This one I didn't quite get because I think it's...
What's it say?
Terrorism. I think terrorism is something that's hyped up to where I did the math on it one time, And I go, your chances of dying by the hands of a terrorist compared to a heart attack are like, I forget how many 100 millions to one.
It's just so weird. Terrorism is like, I mean, like, what are we referring to? Did we cover that with gun control? Like, I mean, because I mean, like, when I think of terrorism, I think of like the shooting we had in Orlando or Las Vegas or like, or Aurora, the movie theater. Like, I think of that. Like, I mean, that's terrorism.
Even if we include those as terrorism, as acts of terrorism, it's still it's so phenomenally low. That it seems like, I've seen people who are scared shitless, who do worry about, that's why they want to have a gun. I go, the last thing we have police officers who are supposedly trained, okay, and we have them making mistakes all the time, killing innocent people. Over 1,000 innocent people were killed last year at the hands of cops, okay? 1,000, over 1,000. So the last thing I want is for some guy with a John Wayne complex in a movie theater where a bad guy has a gun and he's like, oh, I'm the good guy. And next thing you know, there's a shootout and innocent people are dying because this guy decides. Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's absolutely ridiculous. So, yes, even with those terrorist acts, if we consider those terrorist acts, the chances of you dying in a situation like that are so minimal that there are so many other things to worry about that are so much greater, and yet we don't give a damn about that. Like, you're more apt to die of a heart attack. And again, I don't remember the numbers, but they were so extreme, like millions to one, and a chance of dying from a heart attack than you are from a terrorist act. And yet that doesn't stop them from stopping at McDonald's on the way home and having that Big Mac with fries and Coke and shake.
And a Diet Coke.
Diet Coke, of course.
But you think, like, I mean, with terrorism, like that, I don't know. Like, I mean, I almost feel like it could be one of those other things, like with how we see it on social media. So it's like, it's always there for it. Like, it's kind of like we see it all the time, so it's like always there. But I'm not seeing it as much as, I don't know. It's that one. I don't know if I agree with this one because it doesn't worry me as much for the reasons that you're saying. It's like it's something that I don't think about when I go out because it's like I'm gonna live my life. If someone's gonna make that bad decision to like shoot up a place that I'm in, it's like I'm not gonna.
I think that's the fault of the media, not just social media, but the media as a whole. That, again, if we can scare the shit out of people, guess what? They're going to keep their channel on the news because, we're going to tell them, we're going to keep them up to date about things things that are going on. So the media likes to scare the shit out of people. We see it here in Florida all the time. We see it during hurricane season. There's a storm out by South Africa, and it's heading this way. Yeah. And because it's a little pissant storm that's most of the time never, ever makes it to us, they'll start tracking it out there and going, oh, we found a storm out there, the first storm of the season. Yes, it's 3,000 miles away, but, hey, it could hit us. It could be a hurricane.
Did you see how many storms we've had this year?
No.
We're in the Greek alphabet now.
Really?
Yeah, we're like, I think Zeta is where we are. So we're like a few letters into the Greek alphabet right now with our storms.
And yet we haven't. I know that there's been a couple hurricanes that hit different areas, or were they storms? I don't even know. I think they were hurricanes, but they were like really low level.
Yeah.
That basically don't do anything.
Yeah, if it's not at least a Category 4 in Florida,
right?
We
don't even care.
We don't care. It's a rainstorm.
Exactly, because we have rainstorms.
We're so used to this. Yeah. We have rainstorms. Yeah, exactly. We have worse rainstorms than hurricanes.
We
sometimes.
have.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to skip over terrorism because it's not really a threat. So I'm not sure why that made the list.
I'm not finding that one. And any millennials don't like that think it is. Like, I mean, just. Be gentle with me.
Right, exactly. Maybe someone can explain to us why.
Maybe someone can explain that. Yeah, because it's like, I mean, by all means, if any of your viewers can explain that, like in the comments or anything, I'll be glad to hear some perspective on that one. Because I'm not myself. I'm not like that's. I don't know.
All right, number 11 for a problem is intolerance.
What do we mean by intolerance?
I think
because I feel like this could go like one of like 2 or 3 different ways.
All right, so let's use the trans community for one. So there's people out there who don't want to use the pronouns that the trans community wants you to use. and so there, millennials think that there are people out there who are too intolerant, who don't want to abide by that.
Well, there's always going to be assholes. That's the
right.
problem. Is like, and intolerance is a problem. Like, I mean, but how far are we going to go with intolerance? Like, what are we going to do? Arrest people for being assholes? Like,
that's
I mean,
what
that's
they're. Well,
not...
honestly, they're trying to legislate it. They're trying to get it to where that there's some sort of legal ramifications if you don't. Because here's the thing. I had this discussion with somebody who said, if you use the wrong pronoun, that's violence. And I go,
is
no.
It though?
I go,
like,
it's
I mean,
not.
It's being a dick, but it's not.
Right. It's not violence. And I said, by using the word violence, I said, you diminish the meaning of that word from people who seriously suffer from real violence. I go, the person may be a dick and it's a dickish move, but there's nothing violent about it. It's, you just can't use names like that and so carelessly, because then you take away the power of that word. So if you go around and you call everyone a pedophile and you go, oh, you're a pedophile because they say something you don't like, and you're calling everyone a pedophile, all of a sudden it doesn't have a meaning.
Exactly.
It loses its power. So you have to be careful when you use certain words like that, because you seriously diminish it. And yet, while I agree, there are people out there, like you said, they're just going to be assholes.
So there's always going to be assholes. It's like, but I mean, they tried to legislate. Like, I mean, I want to say it was years ago. They were trying to legislate, like someone like talking on their cell phone in the movie theater. Like, they tried to legislate something against that, but it's like, I mean, they came up with the same conclusion. It's like, well, we can't just like start arresting everyone just for being assholes. We'd be arresting everybody at some point. So it's like,
right? No, but you can have businesses, movie theaters, sit there and say you are not allowed to use the cell phone in our business, in our place of business.
Exactly.
If
right.
you do, then we'll kick you out. We'll put a trespass warrant against you because you're violating our policy.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That should be up to the freedom of the business to decide.
I'm surprised some anti-masker hasn't sat down and said, I'm allowed to speak on my phone. It's my First Amendment right. Yeah,
it's like, yeah, but you still have to wear a mask in the theater. So, that's just it. Is like, with the mask thing, I don't understand. I don't understand.
As far as intolerance goes, I can see it being an issue. I don't know that should be in your top 15.
Yeah, it's like, it's one of those things that it's a thing. It's always going to be there. It's not. I don't think intolerance is ever really going to go away. Like, that's just a matter of society that we have to.
There's always going to be racists, homophobes. There's going to be,
Unfortunately, that is how a society works. It's just, it has all the different people in it that, because and some of them are dicks.
Well, and it always comes down to because people don't understand, and so when they don't understand something, they fear it, and so they, so it creates this ism, whether it's racism or, whether it's xenophobia or homophobia or whatever. It's going to be created because of their own lack of education or intelligence.
But that's the way we can battle intolerance. I mean, you want to battle intolerance? Fund education.
Right. Exactly. Number 12, unemployment, which we kind of went over because we talked about
jobs. Yeah, we did.
And number 13, environment, which we talked about with climate change.
Yeah.
And what you said about Trump and rolling back the policy.
He's rolled back a lot of protections,
right.
A lot of environmental protections,
and I can see, again, it's going to affect your generation in particular, because we're going to see that with these policies being rolled back, that these protections being rolled back, it's going to affect our ability to grow food. It's going to affect, us getting food on the table. We're so used to having an abundance where we throw shit out. I forget how much they said was thrown out. I want to say it was like 30% of our food, even at home, gets thrown out that we don't eat, that we buy.
That's a lot.
It is. It's ungodly amount. But imagine bread lines. No one was, I don't want to say that. There might still be some people who were alive back during the bread lines, but if they're not all dead, they're close to it. Mm-hmm. But there's nobody in recent history, my age or less, that ever experienced a bread line and saw what it was like to have shelves absolutely empty of food.
I think we saw something like that at the beginning of the pandemic, but for totally different reasons.
Did we even see that with food? We saw it with toilet paper.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. If you went to like the store, it was funny because not only were the shelves out of like. Now, let me rephrase. So, like, some of the stores were not necessarily out of bread itself, but there were so many people that were just like buying stuff to bake their own bread.
Yeah, yeast. We talked. Yeah. Carl Kreisman and I talked about that. We're like, really? Is everyone
Have you ever baked bread before the pandemic started? Or are we just like getting into a new hobby of like?
Yeah, like
what is happening?
There's never going to be bread on the shelf, so we have to make our own now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what else that I saw? The one food I did see that was absolutely cleared out was ice cream. I was like, well, we know where most people are going. We're not going to get fit during this pandemic.
We're going to put on the quarantine 15.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 14 is drugs.
Ooh, okay. I like drugs. No, I'm just kidding. Well, let me rephrase before I have a lot to say about drugs. As far as this one, I feel like it could go a couple different ways too, because I mean there are drugs that are a problem and there are drugs that are not a problem. Like I feel like my generation is way more on board with legalization of things like marijuana and psychedelics than previous generations have been, and for decent reason. We're finding medicinal purposes for marijuana and for psychedelics. I use marijuana. I do. I smoke weed. I went to Washington and like I when I was there I was like I think I was stoned for most of the time. But it's honestly like I personally I use it recreationally, but I mean there are people that use it for medicinal reasons. Like it helps people who have PTSD, who have cancer, who are getting chemotherapy treatments, but it is still listed as a Schedule I narcotic under federal law. So it's right up there with heroin, and LSD is up there too with like with that, and LSD is like one that I feel like it's very misunderstood. It's when my first experience with LSD was during a time in my life where I was going through a severe like depression, and honestly, I think LSD really pulled me out of it. And after one acid trip, it kind of like put me on a path to like reevaluate, because you're in an altered state of mind. It puts you in a place where you can reevaluate things that are going on from a different perspective. Kind of like how the ancient Romans used to do. They used to have a conversation or a debate about one thing, and then they'd get super drunk and have the same debate all over again, just so they could do it from a different perspective. And I think that's what LSD did for me, was it made me reevaluate things from a different perspective, and it helped me understand the root of my depression. And nowadays, we're living in a world where there's people that are researching that. They're researching the effects that LSD can have in people who suffer from depression, anxiety, and a couple other things, and it seems to be bringing some positive effect. So we know that there are positives to drugs, but I think probably the problem that they're talking about, like opioids. I think that in meth. I don't know, is meth I don't know anything about drugs. I don't even want to pretend to, but I know that that's a major It's been a major problem in pharmaceutical drugs that have been prescribed to people, that those have become... Yeah, prescription drugs are heavily abused. They're more abused than any street drugs. I mean, prescription drugs have gotten to be such a big problem. And that's a thing. Prescription drugs, this is where it comes down to money for the pharmaceutical industry. Nobody wants to... so many people, like, pushed against the legalization of marijuana for such a long time, because it can be grown in the home. So they've made prescription drugs more of a thing, and opioids are like, these are the drugs that are ruining us. Like, this is what we need. Like, this is what I think about when we're talking about like drugs. Like, we have a certain set of drugs that are addictive and they are harmful to our society and they're harmful to us overall, whereas we have all these other drugs that we are considering them illegal, and we're not like even
considering like making them legal anytime soon, but they could actually potentially help people
Right.
too. So I mean, this is, but they're not backed by the money either.
Right.
So it's like you have like the prescription drugs that are backed by like, I hate using the term big pharma, but I mean, come on, like
Right.
but that's what's being pushed onto us is like you get the prescription drugs that are being pushed onto us, and they're just as addictive, if not more. So you end up with people who have addictions to these substances because they were pushed onto these people in the guise of healing. But I don't know, and I don't know why we don't look into. Why we don't want to look into like legalizing or even just researching some of the street drugs that are out there that could potentially help. You know,
Because, like you said, it's not backed by big pharma. It's not backed by money. And if you legalize pot because for medicinal purposes, then all these drugs that they've been making so much money off of over the years will begin to diminish because people won't need to use those drugs. They'll be able to use pot. It's something that won't not harm them, but will actually help them.
but things like that, why is that not somewhat? I kind of like. I mean, I get why big pharma is pushing for that not to be legalized. But I mean, overall, if you look at the states that have legalized, like even recreational or medical, like recreational marijuana especially, the state of Colorado stopped taking federal money for infrastructure because they were making so much money off of taxes that they were getting from weed. And so many people would buy weed from a dispensary if it was available to them versus buying it off the street where they don't know if they're getting clean stuff or not.
Well, when you have major corporations like again, big pharma, or let's say even the alcohol industry, do you think Anheuser-Busch or who's the Coors people?
Are they
forget.
not Bush as well, or are they?
I don't think so. I think they're. I forget
Are they
what
with
their
Miller
name.
maybe, or
No,
I
they're
don't know.
separate. They're separate. But these companies don't want you smoking pot. They want you drinking alcohol. And if you legalize pot, alcohol consumption is going to go down.
Yeah, that's true.
They hire lobbyists to fight against having these laws passed, and because they're trying to protect their profits.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to in a capitalistic society. It's always about these greedy capitalists who put their profits over people. They don't care if pot's better for you. Unless they're making money from it. They don't care.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. You know what I thought was hilarious was a couple years ago when like Carol Jenkins, who's the daughter of George Jenkins, founder of Publix, put a lot of money against the legalization of medical marijuana in the state of Florida. Like she put like it was somewhere upwards of the like $58,000, somewhere around there, that she put to fight against legalization of marijuana. And that was the most hilarious thing because I'm like, your father founded a grocery store. You're fighting against giving people the munchies right now. I don't understand. That's one thing I look forward to when I get stoned is like the munchies.
Right. Well, a lot of people get on their moral high horse, and religion plays a big role in it. And so it doesn't matter what the truth is. It's matter what the religion tells them.
I completely forgot about that commandment, thou shalt not smoke marijuana.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot. So sorry.
It's up there as an abomination along with homosexuality and eating shellfish.
It's one of those. Okay. We'll call on it when we need it.
Exactly. All right. Number 15, last but not least, being too politically correct.
Okay. Well, politically correct. It depends on who the person is that's saying politically correct. Like, are they saying like politically correct like we're just not using like something that maybe like 2 or 3 people deem offensive, or are we using something that's just not clearly racist? Like, because I mean, I hear political correctness, and I think it's so subjective to the person that's using the word. Like, I think like some people consider that like political correctness to use proper pronouns for a transgender person, and it's just like it's really, I mean, is it politically correctness, or is it just not being a dick? Like,
well, I think that being too politically correct in that would be pushing it to where you try to legislate people's speech to have to use those pronouns.
Which should not be a law.
That's too politically correct. It's politically correct to go, that they should be addressed by these pronouns. It's too politically correct if you try to legislate it and say, you must now say these things, or again, there will be ramifications legally, put on you if you don't use these pronouns. And, or it could be like where, for gays, where we sit there and go, it's, we want to be able to be, where there's no discrimination against us in the field of employment. That's fair. Mm-hmm. But then, too politically correct is saying that churches who have schools or whatever can't fire you because you're gay. So now you're saying that they can't follow their beliefs because you want to change their belief system because you think you're entitled to.
Yeah, no, that's a little too far. Well, it's like the case with the Christian baker who didn't bake a cake for a gay wedding, almost.
Okay,
disagree?
So I'll disagree there, because here's the reason why. If you're a business and you're licensed by a government agency, whether it's city, county, state, national, federal, or whatever. If you have a business and you're licensed by that entity, you're not a religious entity. Okay, if you're a Catholic, if you're part of the Catholic Church, for instance, and you have a bakery and it's set up for you to sell baked goods to Catholics, if they don't want to sell to you, that's a different story. But that's not the case here. You're not a religious entity. You're a business entity that's part of the government, not the church. And so for you to deny, service to gay people, I go, that should be illegal. You can't deny service to black people, because you're racist.
Yeah, that's illegal.
Right,
exactly. So I mean, it should be on the same level, like with the legality.
Right. Exactly. So I don't buy into that. If you need a license by any kind of government entity, you need to abide by the rules of that society, not your church. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, go sell your baked goods at your church.
Exactly. Or if you're Kim Davis, she should have just left. She should have just resigned from her post if she couldn't do it.
Well, she's not going to do that. She's looking for 15 minutes of fame with that pork bellied jackass Huckabee. And his god awful daughter.
Oh my God! It's part of me she was the one press secretary that the Trump administration had that I could see the look on her face when she'd get in front of the podium, like, okay, what do I have to lie about today? I could almost see it on her face. Like, she knew that she had to get up there and lie, and she was like...
But this is why people don't this, and this is what I love about your generation, is that, and Dave Chappelle talked about this, and I've been saying it long before I ever heard Dave Chappelle talk about it, but you just can't pull bullshit over on your generation the way my generation did, because we were taught to respect authority, mm-hmm. not to question authority.
We question everything.
And you do, and that's the way it should be. That's why I say, look, even if you like what I say, don't take what I say at face value. Fucking look it up and see if I'm being honest, because I'm going to tell you what I believe is true, and according to my knowledge and the research I've done, this is the truth. But I've been wrong in the past, not often, but I have been. Yeah. And so when somebody can show me a better way and show me that I was wrong, I'm the first one to go, you know what, I was wrong. You're right. And this is the new truth that I see, because it holds up to scrutiny. So if someone can prove me wrong, I'll be the first one to admit it. And so you can't just go because, I follow this person. And this is the problem with a lot of people today. They'll find someone that they follow that they really enjoy, whether it's me, whether it's Joe Rogan, Peter Schiff, and I'm not putting myself on the same plane as Peter Schiff or Joe Rogan. But they'll listen to everything they say and take it as though it's gospel truth. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't, because Peter Schiff, Joe Rogan, Sam Harris, I don't care who you follow, Jordan B. Peterson, they're all human, and they all make mistakes, and they can all be wrong. In fact, I can point out where Joe Rogan's been wrong many times. Joe Rogan will point out where he's been wrong many times. Jordan B. Peterson's been wrong. Sam Harris has pointed out where Jordan B. Peterson's been wrong.
It happens. We're all wrong sometimes.
And and I've pointed out many times where Peter Schiff is wrong about 3 different things I know he's absolutely wrong about. But people who follow them blindly because they don't know what they're fucking talking about. So they put all their trust into this person. So if this person says it, they just regurgitate it as if it's truth because they haven't done their own research to find out if it's true or not.
It's not hard to fact check.
It really is.
It's really not difficult to fact check, but and it's so easy. Like everyone has a cell phone that has Google, and it's not difficult to fact check. Just type your question in, look it up on a couple different sites, and if you see like that you were wrong, change your opinion. It's
admit it.
That's how we grow.
Right. Exactly.
That's how we grow as people.
Unfortunately, for several decades now, it's become very fashionable to not admit that you're wrong about anything. Mm-hmm. Or if you say, I'll take full responsibility. Well, you're not really taking full responsibility if there are no consequences to your actions. So, George Bush was famous for this as far as I'm concerned. Oh, the buck stops here. I take full responsibility. Well, it's easy for you to take responsibility because nothing's going to happen to you. If you could be tried as a war criminal, I guarantee you'd be turning over and fucking dropping names going, it was all Cheney's idea. I guarantee it. He'd be a little bitch.
He'd be selling out.
He would. He would be selling out in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But he can sit there and act like, I'm a big man because he knows nothing's going to happen to him. But, so I have no respect for people like that.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Before I give the other solution, let's do this. The reason I had you on the show is because with all these problems that your generation sees that faces them, you overcame all of these. And by anyone's definition of success, you have been a success. You're somebody who put yourself through college. You bought your own house, bought your own car, paid for things on your own, and we're able to accomplish all these things because we know housing prices are higher. We know that wages are lower. We know that going to school costs more money than it should. We know all these things, and yet you were able to overcome all these obstacles and become successful and obtain all those things that you want, and on top of it, travel around the world at the same time. And the reason I wanted you on the show is to show that it can be done. And I wanted you to kind of explain it, and not that you have to give any words of wisdom, but kind of let people know what was your mindset. How did you overcome these things?
I'd focus on one thing at a time. Just to focus on one thing at a time that I wanted to work towards it, and do the best that I could with the tools that were afforded to me, I guess. To say that it wasn't. I have to recognize I had some privilege along the way, but at the same time, and there were times that I was working 3 or 4 jobs to make things happen, to get things done that I needed to get done. The struggle is real, the grind is real, but you just got to keep your head down sometimes and keep going for it. Just focus on one thing that you want. For me, it would be one thing at a time. Like I remember when I was going to buy my car, it was I focused on just that for a little bit. And when I was going to buy my house, I focused on just that. I kept my head down, focused on saving money, saving enough for a down payment. When I thought I had enough for a down payment, start talking to a realtor, and then just get things moving. But at the time, of course, I was also working 3 jobs and keeping my head down to get it done. Every now and then I'd lift my head, take a break, and say, okay, I have an extra $500. I can take a quick trip maybe for a couple days somewhere. And that's how I've been traveling. When I travel, I did it cheaply, and I still travel very cheap. When I go anywhere, when I got to go to Europe, I got my plane ticket to Paris for $550 round trip. I looked at a specific time of year for that price.
Right.
And
'cause that's a great price.
It is a great price for a round trip ticket to Paris. Yeah. So I looked at a specific time of year for that, and I was very careful about my spending, and because at the time it's like I was still trying to save money, and I was trying to save money for retirement, which I still try to do. But I mean, that's just it. It's trying to keep your head down and try to focus on you rather than all these other things that are going on in the world. It's hard to do, but if you focus on these things all the time, it gets draining. It gets depressing. I mean, the state of the world right now is depressing. I've tried to tell myself to stay off of social media a little bit more and try to keep my head down just to get things done. And even now, that's what I'm doing.
Well, even now you have a career, and yet it's like, and you went back to your old job, and not because you had to, I'm sure, but I'm sure because you probably have more goals that you want to reach and things that you want to accomplish.
The career at the funeral home it's something that I love doing, and it's something I see myself doing for a long period of time. I went back to being a go-go dancer because that's something fun for me. And it's, I didn't realize how much it really did help me keep a lot of weight off when I was doing it. And it was something fun to do on the side for just like a little extra spending money. That's one thing about when I was like working as a go-go dancer, always have cash. We always have cash. So, and that's, I'm doing that now, not because I need the money, but because I do want to save for like some nice things. Like, so I do want to save for my next vacation, and that'll be my spending money, when I finally do plan another vacation. So it's just a matter of keeping my head down and just grinding. That's what I do. It's what you have to do.
Those are, again, wise words, because that's what I do. Whenever I have a goal, like I have something in mind, I that's what I focus on until I get what I want. I won't settle for something less than what I want. And so I know that there are people out there who were questioning my choices when I decided to take my personal training business and start phasing it out. Because I go, I don't want to focus on my personal training business anymore, and it's not fair to my clients if I have clients and my focus is here on my podcast, because this is what I love doing. I cannot tell you how much joy I get from doing this. And so I wanted to put as much of my attention here as I could, and I knew I couldn't do that if I still have my business going full force and I'm spending all my time there, that this is just going to be a hobby. And I don't want this to be a hobby. I want this to be fun. And I want this to be what I do for the rest of my life. And I can only do that if I make this a priority. And that's what you do. You make things a priority, and then you go after it. So the mindset is paramount to your success. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that you made mention that, that you recognize that you had some privilege. And while that's true, I think everybody in this country needs to understand that we all have privilege. We have first world privilege. If you were born in this fucking country, you have privilege over every other country, and you have certain advantages over everybody else in this world because you were born in this country. So don't focus on the privilege that you weren't born with. Focus on the privilege you were born with. And you made a great point, is that you don't focus on the problems. You identify the problems, and then you focus on the solutions, and then that's what you do. And that was going to be, besides voting, that's the next thing that you've got to do. Identify the problem, and then put your energy into the solutions, not into bitching about the problems, into the solutions.
And of course, not like other people either. Like, that's something I see a lot of people my age putting their energy into. They'll compare to other people their age to where they are in their life. And it's like, if you're constantly looking at somebody else's work, you're not going to get your own done. Like, if you spend all your time focusing on where somebody else is and how they're there, you're not putting that focus into your own self. You're comparing yourself where you are to where you want to be, which is where someone else is, and you're not getting yourself anywhere. Does that make sense? Did I say that right?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. In fact, I have a gentleman who I'm going to be doing a podcast with here next week, His name's Kenyatta Banks, and he has a system that he came up with that it's to say it's a workout system is too simple. It's based on your mindset, and it's based on finding other people who are like-minded and think the way he does. And what he's done is he's created this team across the country, and no matter whether they do Pilates, yoga, HIIT training, or whatever it may be, he's brought these people who all think the same way, which is, look, we need to encourage people. We need to get them mentally right to where that they have confidence, where they believe in themselves, where they love themselves, and not just put them through a workout like everybody else does, because that doesn't solve their issues as far as what the core of their issues are. Because I know as a personal trainer for years that I've had people come to me wanting to work out because they wanted that confidence in themselves, and they thought, if I just get my body looking like this, I'll have it. And I go, that's not going to happen. It'll give you a little confidence, a little more than you already have, but deep down inside, you're still going to be scared of whatever it is you're scared of. And some people are open to listening to that and understanding it, and some just go, just train me. But he has a shirt. The reason I brought him up is because he has a shirt, which I'm going to buy from him, that has on it "You versus You." And I go, that's exactly right. And what you just said is, don't compare yourself to others. You do better for you, and you compare yourself to what you did yesterday and the day before. And when I lift, it doesn't matter what I do. If I'm running, if I'm lifting, if I'm fighting, whatever I do, I want to do better the day that I'm doing it better than I did the day before. Mm-hmm. Whether it's by 1 second, if it's by 1 pound, whatever it might be, I want to do it better. And that's how you become successful. Don't focus on others. Focus on yourself.
Exactly. The playing field, unfortunately, I mean, this is what I hear from my generation. The playing field is skewed.
Oh, it is.
And it is. But keep your head down, play it, and in the meantime, vote.
Exactly.
And that's how things are really going to get better, is just, keep your head down, grind, but get out there, educate yourself, and vote. And then maybe we can make the playing field just a little bit more even.
And the last thing I want to add, because again, what this show is about is when you educate yourself, look at things from every different perspective that you can possibly look at it, and then because the more knowledge you have, the better choices you're going to make. People's truths are limited to their knowledge and experience. And if you have limited knowledge and limited experience, your truth is not going to be complete. And obviously it's not going to be the whole truth. So, just don't half-ass your education. Don't half-ass, the truth. Find out for real. Look at it from all different perspectives, and you'll have a much better understanding of what really is true. So,
truth.
Robby, believe it or not, we went 3 hours again.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
Wow.
I know. I thought for sure, but I mean, again, it just doesn't feel like that.
It doesn't feel like it. It does not feel like I've been here that long. In fact, and I've had a great. This has been amazing. I've had a great time.
Well,
the time just flies by when I'm in here. It just flies by.
Listen, here's the thing. They say that time flies when you're having fun, and of course you're easy on the eyes, so that makes it even more enjoyable. So
you.
Let's see if we can turn red on camera.
Oh gosh.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me, and thanks for your words of wisdom and for your input into helping people out to hopefully get past these issues that that everyone's dealing with, but in particular your generation and the younger generations, and I hope that they'll heed your words and help make their lives a little easier.
I hope so, because I mean it really is up to us to do that. We have the power to sway elections. We have the power to make this world the way we want to make it if we would just turn out to the polls a little bit more often. Not even just for the general election. I'm talking about like state level, local level. Pay attention, because that stuff affects all of us too. It really does, and I don't think people realize about how much it really, really does affect us.
You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Well, thank you again.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.
And we'll definitely do this again. We'll do what we talked about earlier. But anyway,
I look forward to it.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us. It was a pleasure having you. I hope you enjoyed as much as we did. And until next time, take care, be safe, and wear your mask.